And wait for it. Squeak, squeak, mofos and brofos. It me, Chris, the rat wobbling in the corner. And today, it's Wednesday again. So you know what that means? It means asking forgiveness. It means this is a transformative experience, and what I'm doing is under fair use. This is fair use. Yeah, I think I'm still off by about 3 seconds. I can't quite get the live down because by the time it says that it's live, it says like 3 seconds. I'm like, come on, I don't know. Could it say T minus? Could it give me a roll? Give me a roll. I need a dude. I need a little YouTube dude with one of those clappers. He's like 3, 2. You can't see me. I'm doing the hand thing, but you can't see that because this is anyway. No sleep. We're doing no sleep. We're always doing no sleep. It's Wednesday. It's no sleep. What? Did I click on their profile? I don't want to click on their profile. I don't do any profiling on No Sleep. I'm not saying that everyone on No Sleep is a serial killer, murderer, or degenerate. This is the internet. That's just everyone. Okay. So, blah, 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 blah. Let's get to it. Thank you and apologies to As Death Beckons. With something visited me during a power outage. No period. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like YouTube chat is popping up on stream. Yes, it is. I see it. It's right there. I think it takes a hot second for it to connect. I mean, it's the Streamlabs. It's Streamlabs. The chat is just connected through Streamlabs, pulling from both YouTube and Twitch. So realistically, it should just pop. I shouldn't really need to do anything extra. It should just go... and it's ready, and it's good. That's the whole point. I want everything to be automatic. I don't want to have to think about it. I already have to do extra steps to get YouTube working. I was like, oh my god. A whole 2 extra buttons I have to press? Misery. Anyway. We're at a gas station because of course we are. When I was 19, I worked the overnight shift at a gas station just on the outskirts of my town. From 10 at night to 6:30 in the morning, I'd be left alone to my own devices. The gas station was located on a long stretch of road that was pretty... oh, wow. Wow, we have gone from talking to phlegm in like 5 seconds. That's crazy. What's the difference? Am I forcing myself to talk differently? Should I just talk normally when I read them? The gas station was like... it doesn't sound right. But usually not as traveled during the night. I'd get an average amount of about a dozen or so people who would pop in to grab candy, coffee, and fill up their tanks. Most of the time, I'd just be on my phone, occasionally getting up to fulfill my duties around the store. I remember that night like it was yesterday. Hold on a second, let me just... posted 3 days ago. Well, almost was. I had already been running late. My car had trouble starting up, but my dad was able to get it up and running. The wind was blowing something terrible. The sky had turned grey and I could smell it in the air. It was about to storm. Oh boy. Also, I ate breakfast pretty much before hitting live, so yeah, I've definitely put together today. I didn't mind it. This meant my night would be even more uneventful than usual. 4 periods! Or so I thought. I had to swerve to avoid hitting a deer that had suddenly emerged from the tree line on the side of the road. Okay, they've used a semicolon and they've decided to capitalize the next letter. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Swearing under my breath as my heart pounded, I glanced up into my rearview mirror. The deer was watching me drive away, and it had realistic human eyes. It was a when deer go. My co-worker? You had a co-worker? An older woman named Beth tried to pretend not to be annoyed once I finally got there. I apologized profusely, but she said her goodbyes and headed out. I inspected the 4 pumps we had outside, making it back inside just in time to avoid the rain. As thunder boomed overhead, I walked to the store, making sure everything was properly stocked and snack machines were running smoothly. Then I sat in my trusty 50-year-old chair and pulled up YouTube. I had a few customers stop by, but the storm only seemed to be getting worse, and eventually the road was completely empty. I snapped out of my digital trance enough to grab a hot dog, but noticed that my phone was on its last breath. My charger, of course, was in the car, and I sure as hell wasn't going outside. I lowered my head under the counter, but one of my co-workers had taken the community charger. Assholes. Excuse me, are you telling me you all use the same kind of phone? Pardon? Or do you just mean that you had a random USB charger that plugged in somewhere that accepted any USB cable, but you also needed to carry the cable with you? I'm sorry, I don't believe this story anymore. I mean, I know they're going to be murdered by a supernatural entity, or a ghost will appear, or maybe zombies, but really? Really? The community charger? Really? Okay. The building seemed to shake from the next round of thunder, and suddenly the lights were out. Oh, well then you wouldn't be able to charge it anyway. You could have just had that happen. I went to plug in my phone, and then the lights went out. I sat up looking around for the flashlight. Oh, sorry, I mean, this really happens, so it's not like they're going to, I don't know, edit their real, actual life. Am I right? Nudges you in the side. Am I right? Nudges you again. I sat up looking around for a flashlight. Instead, I found a dark figure standing in front of the counter. I gasped, falling back in my chair. Somehow, this hunk of wood that had survived since the Ice Age finally splintered under the weight of my fall. Oof. I sprung up, staring in confusion and apprehension at the person standing before me. He wore a black cloak, because of course he did, his hood raised. His face, round and bearded, was barely visible. He was tall, and for the life of me, I cannot tell you how he had gotten there without me noticing. I had not heard the jingle of the front door, and even if he had somehow bypassed that, I'd only been below the counter for a second or two. What unnerved me the most, though, was that he seemed to be completely dry. There was no umbrella in sight. Sorry, bro. You scared the hell out of me. What's up? He simply stood there staring at me. I was now even more aware of my on-life support cell phone as, with the power out, I couldn't even hope to use the landline. No, the landline, no. That's passively powered through the phone line. That has absolutely... Children! Children writing stories! That's not how landlines work! The landlines are passively powered... The landline phones are passively powered through the telephone line. So if your power goes out locally, then the phone still works. How they got around that in many horror films and such is that they would have somebody physically remove the phone line. They would cut the phone line. That's how the phone line would go out. It doesn't matter if the power's on or not. Your landline's going to work. The man's dark eyes shifted from me to the back of the store.
You have drinks here?
Yeah, man. Right back there. He stared for a few seconds longer, then moved stiffly toward the coolers. I wondered if I should make a run for it then, but something seemed to be telling me not to. I wasn't sure if it was because I thought he would easily chase me down, or if I was trying to be rational. This guy was definitely weird, and I'm a judgmental prick. But why risk getting into trouble with my boss by abandoning the store and cash register? I tapped my foot nervously as I sat waiting for him to return. When he did, he placed the small bottle of water on the counter. I need a small bottle of water, damn. The storm outside rendered the dark store even darker. I could barely see anything around me. The man's eyes were boring into my face.
You have any smokes?
Yeah, man. Which ones would you like?
What do you recommend?
I didn't want to turn around, so I just started listing the brands that I knew. When I finished, he tilted his head slightly.
You know those are bad for you. You shouldn't smoke, Derek.
My heart skipped a beat. What the fuck? How did you know my name, man?
Your name badge.
I felt like an idiot. This weather and situation was making me irrational. I needed to calm down and take care of this guy. I reached for the scanner to ring the gentleman up and felt stupid for a second time in as many seconds. The power was out. I couldn't ring him up anyway. The register's useless. It's on the house, man. Have a good night. The stranger looked at the register, then back at me. He seemed like he was trying to come up with an excuse not to leave. I wondered if he'd been hoping I would open the register so he could rob me.
I'm not leaving. Not yet.
Fuck. Oh, sorry, that's not how it's written. Fuck. I glanced at my phone, completely dead. I had this terrible, terrible feeling that I would be too. This guy hadn't done much. He wasn't loud, but danger and something horrible seemed to be lingering in the atmosphere. I had nowhere to go. I could try to fight him, but this guy was massive. As our staring match continued, there was movement outside the glass doors. I could see a white car pulling up to one of the pumps. Oh, well, they're not going to be able to use the gas pumps because there's no power, right? Are they suddenly going to be able to use the gas pump? I could see a white car pulling up to one of the pumps. I can tell you I've never felt so relieved in my life. Finally! Someone else was here. I was saved. Two young men got out of the car, one of them in a black shirt and the other red, and began jogging through the rain toward the building. The stranger in front of me turned, then moved faster than he had all night, walking swiftly over to the doors. He stood glaring outside at the boys, both of whom froze in their tracks. One of them screamed and the other turned to run. They slid and stumbled in the rain in their complete and utter terror back to their car. They hopped in and the third person, the driver, peeled out of the lot. What the hell was that? Did they know something about this guy that I didn't? Their reaction had been almost comical with how terrified they'd seemed, even more than myself. The stranger turned back toward me. My stomach dropped. There was no help. I was stuck here with this guy and completely at his mercy. He blinked for the first time all night, then cracked a smile. His teeth were surprisingly white. Pearly, even.
Have a great night, Derek.
He pushed the door open and walked out. I didn't know whether I was more confused or relieved. I ran over to lock the door only to see that the man was not outside. There was no car, he wasn't walking in any direction, he seemed to have just completely disappeared. The power came back on about 2 hours later. My nerves had finally returned to normal and the rest of my shift passed without incident. The early shift worker, Seth, pulled up at his usual time and shook my hand.
Derek, man, I'm glad to see that you're okay.
Why wouldn't I be? I wondered aloud.
You haven't seen any updates on your phone? There were some guys who robbed and shot a gas station attendant a few miles from here. I thought the boss man shot you a text or called you.
Maybe he did, but my phone's dead. Are you sure the guy who was shot and killed wasn't a large man in a cloak with a round face and bearded chin? And he stood at the door and saved me from being killed? Sorry. Maybe he did. My phone's dead. What did these guys look like? Seth scratched his chin.
If I remember correctly, they were in a white Toyota. Two young guys and a driver, too.
My face had surely drained of all color the way Seth looked at me. What? This did make sense. I had nearly been a victim of these guys, but if they had a gun, what had terrified them so about the stranger in the cloak? What had they actually seen through those doors? I left the building, splashing through the puddles to get to my car. I sat there in the driver's seat for a second, just staring into space. Then I turned to look for my phone charger. It was there in the passenger seat, right next to my name badge. Ooh! Ah, spooky! Spooky name badge horror! Yes, okay. Ooh, so scary, so spook. Sorry. If you all soiled yourself, I'm very sorry. I don't really have the money to comp your pants, so you're just going to have to go change. Maybe give yourself a quick wash as well. Thank you and apologies once more to Saturdead with There Was Never a Bomb. Before I start, I want to preface this with something important. As you read this, you might be inclined to ask yourself why you haven't heard about it. Why wasn't this on the news? This should have been covered. This should have been covered nationally, you might think. But there's a reason it wasn't. And by the end of the story, that reason will be more apparent. I'm telling this story, my story, from my perspective. I probably have one of the most boring jobs in the Midwest. I go to the same building every day. I check in with security using my picture ID. I put a code in at the console and I sit in my office. I'm sort of a data archivist. I work with an esteemed stock brokerage firm that's been around for decades, and they legally need to keep their paperwork in order in case of a review. One day, absolutely nothing happens. The next, you get a call You get a call for obscure files that were handwritten in the 80s. When you do, you better have your ducks in a row. When you have a boss that doesn't understand why they need you, you better make sure that you do things right when they do. It was 2024. I was doing all right. It wasn't my first job, and it wouldn't be my last. I'd worked there for 2 years digitizing archived information. Analytics, agreements, predictions, board meeting protocols, all of it. Scan, file, backup, repeat. I'm not exaggerating when I say a literal ape could do that job. Well, lucky you, you are literally an ape. You are a great ape, a member of the human race. So yeah, congratulations. You proved yourself correct. I was struggling to make ends meet. I'd been living with a roommate, but I had to move out on short notice. His girlfriend got pregnant, and the two of them were moving in together. The apartment was in his name, so I had to pack up and leave. I got a 2-room apartment in a nice neighborhood, and 2 months later, the rent shot up. We're talking 35% increase overnight. Didn't even know they could do that. I know for a fact that legally here, they can't. But maybe you're in America, and it's legal there. I was working as many hours as they let me. Sometimes I'd sleep in the office so I wouldn't have to take the 30-minute drive back home. Saves on gas. I only drank coffee from the break room, and I was hand washing my shirts in the sink. It was better than being homeless, but I was losing a lot of sleep. Oh my god! Do you think he was having insufficient rest? It's hard to close your eyes when your mind is screaming at you to do something. It was Monday morning in mid-June. For the purposes of the day, it was Wednesday morning in mid-August. I was 20 minutes early, overestimating traffic. The electronic doors swung open and I greeted Lois at the reception. We didn't get a lot of visitors, but the boss insisted on us having a friendly smile greet whoever stepped in. Lois had a very friendly smile. I think she used to be a kindergarten teacher. She waved me in. I held up my pictured ID to security guard. I held up my pictured ID to security guard Cole as I passed him by the stairs. Is it just me, or does this feel kind of clunky? Does the dialogue feel a bit weird? I mean, I suppose it is a nebbish person that worked in the dark for an extended period of time, so I guess they could be a little weird. Taking the long route down. It was so hot that the metal railing and the staircase burned my hands if I held on too long. While I worked in the data archive on the basement level, there were 3 more floors with people slaving away for the firm. 125 employees in total. 3 security guards on rotation. Plenty of fire exits that never had been used, and locked doors that had never been opened. This place was a sleeping fortress that could never be challenged. I got to my office, a small room adjacent to the server bank. Plain walls apart for a poster with a kitten chewing on a blue sunflower with the caption, "This fish smells weird." Okay. You could hear the servers humming through the wall, but the noise-cancelling headphones helped. Damn thing was flaking through, leaving me with little black spots in my hair that made people think I had fleas. Not great when you're coming up to chit-chat during lunch. You don't have to. Just... Are you... Seriously, you get a nice little basement office where you're completely alone, you're left to your own devices, you're free from having to interact with any other human being, and you leave that? You decide that you're going to leave that area? You're insane. Whatever happened to you, you completely deserve. There had been 6 requests over the weekend. Not bad. I was expecting at least a dozen. Only one of them was time sensitive, so I'd have to get that done by lunch. Till Wednesday again, at the earliest. I might do them earlier if I got bored. All in all, nothing unusual. According to official reports, the first disturbance was recorded at 10:15 a.m. There was a short power outage. Are we going to have a power outage theme today? Things get scary when I don't have a connection to the internet or my electronic devices. That caused the building to go dark for a couple of seconds. Some of my colleagues would later tell me they noticed a couple of things ahead of that, but didn't make the report. One guy on the second floor told me that his paperclips had started spinning. Just like that, spinning. The janitor told me his battery-powered radio started screeching like a 90s internet modem. I was in the second floor break room when it happened. I was talking to Michelle in HR about getting some new headphones, but she was having a completely separate conversation with Mark about a homemade mustard recipe. I was about to walk away with a fresh cup of coffee when the lights flickered. I heard the fridge power down. It's amazing how quiet things can get when all the little machines stop running. And why do we seemingly hold our breaths while waiting for it to come back? There was this loud boom on the third floor. Yum, mustard. It's the only thing you've gotten from this story so far. Boy, yeah, mustard, yeah, mustard. Can we get some appreciation for mustard? Come on. Just a round of applause for mustard in general. Personally, I like mild English mustard. If I'm having like a Kransky or a Metwurst or maybe a hammed sandwich, slather that stuff on thick. It should be like several millimeters thick. More. You like honey mustard? Honey mustard's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think it depends on what you're pairing it with. A lot of the stuff I'm pairing the, like, English mustard with is fatty. Like, there's a lot of fat content, so there's sort of, like, the sharp taste of... Why are we talking about mustard? We were reading a story! It was okay. A couple of plates fell off the counter, tumbling to the floor. Someone thought it was an earthquake and dropped to the floor, but others followed. I didn't know what was happening, but I got under the break room table just in case. The break room table was situated on the floor. There were screams, but I couldn't tell which direction they were coming from. They were seemingly everywhere. I joined a group of others heading for the staircase. There was this one guy who was supposed to be the supervisor yelling at the elevators, yelling that the elevators were off limits during an earthquake. Someone was yelling back that it was an active shooter. People were calling emergency services and hiding under their desks. I saw the door to the staircase at the end of the hallway about 40 feet ahead of us. Then the door swung open with a bang. Smoke billowed out and there was this loud crack. I saw something roll out of the smoke, something small like a football. At first, I thought it was a broken melon. It was this weird mix of white and red, but it had something attached to it. I think it was Mark who started yelling first. Mark? As in Mark Fishbark?
It's a head! It's a goddamn head!
If you've never experienced an every man for themselves moment, let me tell you what it's like. You are no longer a person. Whoever you are becomes an impediment for a herd of people flocking to get away. Also, they get to be people. They won't stop to check on you. They will push and shove and scream and kick. Even Michelle from HR, she was screaming about her mustard recipe while kicking me. I was thrown off balance and pushed up against the wall. As I realized I was at the end of a long line of people running away, I decided to dip the other way. You don't want to be the last in line when chased. There was a storage closet just across the hall, so I ran straight ahead and threw myself in there, slamming the door behind me. I propped myself up against the door, keeping it closed. The storage closet didn't have a lock, and there was a slight hole where the mechanism was supposed to be, giving me an impromptu peephole. I could hear this meaty squish noise as something moved down the hallway. And for a split second, I saw something massive. At least 8.5, maybe 9 feet tall. It was wearing something dark and was covered in what looked like blotches of wet skin. I saw hands, a metal sheen, and spikes. It passed a couple of feet from the door. Was it a Cenobite or something? I heard it entering the main floor. The screaming got louder. There was a loud thunk noise and another yell joined the choir. Someone fired a handgun, then suddenly stopped. Oh, so we're in America. Sorry, I wasn't quite sure where we were. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. I'm just going to assume that somebody who had a handgun in an office building, probably America. I held my head down and fumbled with my cell phone, trying to get a call through. I couldn't believe how sweaty I was. My fingers left streak marks on the touchscreen. I decided it was better not to make any noise. Wait, if you're trying to call emergency services, don't you just need to, like, hold a button or something? You don't actually need to... whatever. Somebody else had probably called for help anyway, so I turned the sound off and stuck the phone back in my pocket. According to official reports, the suspect entered the main cubicle area at 10:21 a.m. He fired a rudimentary metal projectile at an unarmed office worker, pinning him to the wall with a shattered scapula. A security guard opened fire but was unable to halt the offense. 18 people barricaded themselves in the meeting room while 31 managed to get out through the fire escape. Sorry, I'm getting all colicky. Let me just gargle. I'll mute. I won't force you to hear my mouth sounds. Hold on. Lovely. Excuse me. Then I heard the footsteps. Wait. No, that's wrong. I remember sitting there on the floor, trying to make myself as small as possible. I had my head against my knees, trying to block out the sounds. I knew I'd be hearing them in my nightmares. I'd heard people screaming before, but this didn't sound like people anymore. We'd been reduced to frightened animals, screeching this recurring danger noise back to our flock, hoping to hide in greater numbers. Then I heard the footsteps. Metal rattled with every step as this massive thing came my way. There was a click as a mechanism was put in place. There were already sirens outside. A couple of minutes passed as the screams grew more distant, before there was a knock on the door. I didn't say or do anything, I just held my breath and stayed down. There was another knock, then a push. Remember, there was no lock. The door opened inward, making my weight the only thing standing between whoever was out there and me. Then the door flung open. I was thrown face first into a shelf, knocking down cleaning supplies and toilet paper. I could immediately tell I was going to get a bruise. Oh no! Oh no, someone is literally trying to murder everyone in this building, but I got a bruise. The door was open, but no light was coming in. Whoever was standing there was big enough to completely block the view. I want to tell you about my mustard recipe! I remember seeing a head hanging from a chain. I didn't want to look at it, but I couldn't help it. It had these dead, tired eyes. They don't roll back and turn white like in the movies. It had this big metal screw pressed into the cranium with a chain connecting it to a belt. That's the first detail I saw. Don't do this, I whispered. Don't do this. A hand reached in and grabbed my collar and pulled me out. I was thrown to the floor like a wet towel. He was taller than anyone I'd ever met and dressed in makeshift metal armor. It looked like old cookware, this black, thick, roughly hewn and oiled metal. There were spikes with little lights coming out of his back. He had this helmet resembling a kabuki mask with big, puffy cheeks. He was wielding what could best be described as a harpoon, but without a retraction mechanism. There was blood everywhere. It was dripping from him. I counted at least 3 severed heads. There were limbs strewn across the hallway. He had fresh strips of skin hanging from his shoulders, slapping against his armor with every step he took. And now he was looking right at me. I wanted to say 8 things at once. I wanted to say I was a nobody, that I just worked there. I wanted to say he could do whatever, and I'd look the other way. There was nothing I wasn't prepared to do to be able to close my eyes and disappear into myself, far away from the monster staring me down. The words got stuck in my mouth, and I ended up stammering and whimpering. Sorry, I read ahead. I shouldn't have read ahead. He raised his harpoon back and checked the little black cube he'd taken from his belt. Seemingly satisfied, he dropped something on the floor in front of me, gesturing to it with his weapon. I picked it up. It was a small, laminated card. It was all scrunched up and yellow with age. It only had 2 words. Archive, now! I looked up, blinking at him. I read it again, nodding. Yeah, I said, yeah, sure, I'll get you there. It's in the basement. There's a door code and... He stomped his foot, making the gore on his armor rattle. He held a hand out to me to return the card. I did, and he slid it back into a pouch on his belt. Pushing me in front of him with the harpoon raised, he forced me toward the staircase. He checked his black cube one more time, making sure all was in order. He'd done a number on the place. There were streaks of black along the walls, like a bomb had gone off. Fresh blood on the floor, making the staircase stink of iron. I almost slipped in a puddle as I hurried down. As I did, I noticed him removing the severed head from his belt and dropping it behind him, like he was leaving a trail. When we got to the first floor, we had to go out across the hall to another staircase. We would have to pass through the reception. He took out 3 capsules, 2 grey ones and a red. He kicked the door down and threw it out in a bundle. Chaos erupted immediately. There was a cloud of dust and smoke that bloomed out, and I heard gunfire. Blood splattered on the walls, and it sounded like someone screaming for their life. We walked out into the hallway as people were running past us through the smoke, desperately trying to make it to the front doors. The attacker grabbed the first person he could, dragging them along with us. As it happens, it was a receptionist, Lois. She flailed and screamed. He had this hold on her where his hand could fit over her entire head like a basketball. And when he squeezed a little, she went quiet. There was blood trickling down her face, but I'm not sure it was hers. I had to take point, leading him to the basement stairs. There were no people down there, so at the very least no one else would have to die. Official reports recorded the assailant moving through the building, entering the basement staircase at 10:29 a.m. First officers on site were busy setting up a perimeter around the front of the building, while another patrol was set up along the fire escapes. About 70 people in total had evacuated. Witnesses speak of having seen the man handling strange technological devices on the 3rd floor, prompting officers to treat the initial contact as an active shooter and potential bomb threat. Walking down the basement stairs, the sound of approaching sirens faded. The man dropped another head at the door, leaving a blood-smeared handprint on the wall. Pushing Lois in front of me, the two of us took point. She looked at me and I looked back. Neither of us dared to say a word as I felt the poke of the harpoon. Coming down to the archive level, I put in my code and opened the door. The man struggled to get inside, having some of the spikes on his back snag on the corners of the doorframe. As we made it inside, he held up his note again, pointing with a big finger on the word archive. "This is it," I said. "This is the archive." He pointed at me and Lois, then at the chairs over by the corner. We sat down and kept our hands visible. He removed a bag from his shoulder and connected a couple of cables from his helmet to the antenna. To an antenna. You know, the antenna. The antenna that's in every archive room. He checked the black cube again and put it down on a table. It was making little bleeping noises like it was scanning for something. Lois whispered under her breath, "He's going to kill us." "Calm down. We're still here. We're okay." "He's going to kill us." "We don't know that. Maybe he'll take this and leave." "Take what? What's there to take? He's crazy." I didn't have a good answer. I did have a good recipe for mustard, though. Archive rooms are bugs. Well, clearly. 50 years of financial records and transactional data. Why'd anyone need that? He's started doing this strange thing where he removes spikes from his back, and I could see they had a white strip of light going up the side. He took one of the spikes and rammed it into a server bank. The white light turned red, then began to rise. As it reached the middle of the spike, the light turned yellow. It was charging or loading or something. He went all around the room, pushing down spikes into our servers one by one. Once one of them was finished, he retrieved the spike and put it in a pile in front of us. He left this roll of metal threading on the floor and pointed to Lois. She started bundling the spikes together, which seemed to please him. He returned to check the cube once every couple of minutes, impatiently walking back and forth. I saw him looking into my office at one point, noticing my cat poster. He looked back a couple of times. I don't know how long we sat there, but I could tell things were happening upstairs. Official reports state that at 10:40 a.m. most of the civilians had been evacuated from the building, but there were about a dozen still unaccounted for. They were treating it as a bomb threat and hostage situation with presumed casualties and several wounded. They couldn't go in guns blazing, they had to wait for a specialist team to arrive. Meanwhile, there were police surrounding the building, demanding the offender to come out with his hands visible. A hostage negotiator was en route. Once he had a bundle of 20 fully charged spikes, the armored man picked the black cube back up. He stopped to listen, turning his head upward. He could tell there was trouble brewing outside. Getting a pep in his step, he loaded the bundle up like a backpack and grabbed Lois by the arm, forcing her to take point as we went back up the stairs. Oh boy. I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what it is about reading. I get all gurgly. Maybe I need to stop thawing it. I need to stop putting on a voice. Just read it like normal, Chris. No! I refuse! I prefer to drown on my own phlegm. As we returned to reception and into the night of day. The night of day? Yes, idiot. I could see the front doors. I could see shotguns and handguns pointing our way. Sirens blaring, lights flashing, officers taking cover behind their doors. Lois was pushed ahead, and when she looked back, the man shooed her with his weapon. He was telling her to run. She didn't stop to think about it and rushed for the front doors. While the officers were busy dealing with her, he kept going across a hallway into the staircase leading back to the upper floors. He wasn't letting go of me yet. There was something left to do. It was tricky getting back up the stairs. I'd never seen so much blood in my life. I could see it dripping down the main shaft, these long drops falling from 2 rooms above. He kept going up the stairs, checking his black cube as he went. We made it all the way up to the 3rd floor, where he had seemingly entered. I can't imagine how he'd done that, but that's where this had all started. The door to the staircase was blown out. As we entered the floor and moved past a window, someone outside fired a shot. It dinged off the side of his helmet, making him step back. He grabbed another red capsule from his belt and threw it on the floor ahead of us. It exploded with the sound of a gunshot. Blood spurted out in all directions, and there was this noise coming from it like someone was dying on the floor. It was a small device like a speaker, but it sounded like a real person. Official reports speak of a successful shot that wounded the assailant at 11:01 a.m. Witnesses describe it as seeing the shot connect, blood spurt out, and hearing a painful wailing. Seeing as the assailant was wounded, the threat was less immediate, giving the special weapons team more time to prepare a response. We were moving from room to room as he checked the black cube over and over. As we got to the third floor meeting room, something went wrong. He seemed frustrated, like something wasn't going according to plan. He stepped down on one of the office chairs, crushing it. Holding the cube up like a compass, he turned his face downward, as if looking at the floor below us. We were in the wrong spot. Okay, the cat poster has been mentioned several times. Do you think that whatever he's looking for is behind the cat poster? Is that stupid? Is this Chekhov's cat poster? Holding the cube up like a compass, he turned his face downward, as if looking at the floor below us. It's the safe with the mustard recipe. We found it! Finally, we can make the perfect mustard. Opens up safe, pulls out recipe. Aw, man, it's Dijon. God damn it. We were in the wrong spot. Grabbing me by the arm, he pulled me back to the staircase, making sure to stay clear of the windows. I didn't know it at the time, but the police were preparing a squad to enter the building from the third floor fire escape. They were still waiting for clearance and determining the rules of engagement, but we were talking about a matter of minutes. Meanwhile, we were making our way back down to the second floor. He was in a hurry. He threw furniture to the side like it was nothing, moving like a wrecking ball. We had to go through the break room to stay away from the windows. He bowled over the water cooler and coffee maker. We could no longer have a conversation about the latest episode of Friends we watched on Netflix. At one point, he accidentally bumped into one of the door frames. They're not really built for people his size. His tools rattled a little and he dropped his black cube. I don't think he noticed. I don't know why I picked it up. It was just there and he was looking the other way. I snatched it off the floor. It was this 4-inch cube, but it seemed really important to him. The corners were so sharp, you could accidentally cut yourself if you weren't careful. As we made it back to the main cubicle area, I saw the result of his assault. One of the office workers was still nailed to the wall with a long metal rod. It had pierced his shoulder. He was still breathing, but he couldn't move. I knew the guy. He worked in targeted advertising. Did he appreciate the irony? At least he wasn't dead, but the more he struggled, the more he hurt himself. I gave him an apologetic look as we hurried past him. I rounded the corner to the main workspace with the armored man right behind me. The room was a mess. It was covered in bloodstains and I could hear these weak screams coming from under the desks. I could see those red capsule casings littering the floor like the one he'd used when he got shot. There was something off about this. I got the feeling that I didn't see the entire story. It's almost like he hasn't killed anybody. As he stepped into the middle of the room, he stomped his foot down and looked up. Using something akin to a laser pointer, he drew a circle in the floor. Waving at me with his harpoon, he was silently shooing me away. I was free to go, just like Lois. I didn't think twice about it. I turned and headed for the staircase. Oh. Official reports speak of a tactical breach at 11:09 a.m. Flashbangs were deployed by the fire escape on the third floor, and they thought the attacker had been shot. Another team entered through the bottom floor. There was still a suspected bomb threat, but an active shooter took precedence. All attempts at communication had failed, so they had to move faster than usual and take some risks. I heard this frustrated growl as I realized I was holding onto the armored man's black cube. I didn't think he'd notice dropping it. I could hear people coming down the stairs yelling out instructions. I wasn't really watching where I was putting down my feet as I almost tripped on a severed head. It was the same one that had been thrown when I first saw him, the one I'd mistaken for a broken melon. I could hear a tactical team in the staircase and thundering footsteps coming from behind me. But I didn't look either way. I turned to the severed head. The eyes were painted on. It all clicked. The blood smelt wrong, the skin flaps on his armor were a bit too stretchy, and now, looking down on the floor, I realized this was a fake. Theatrics. Shock and awe. You know, except for the guy that he shot against the wall. That was real. The rest of it's fake, but you know, the dude from targeted advertising was literally shot against the wall. But when I turned around, the threat was anything but exaggerated. The armored man was standing further down the corridor, harpoon raised and hand outstretched. He wanted the cube, no doubt about it. I could hear officers coming down the stairs, taking care not to slip on the blood. I remember hearing the words like fan out and cover left. Looking down at the cube and back at this metal-covered giant, I didn't know what to think. The cube had this slick surface like a perfect ice cube. It was cool to the touch, but not freezing. I shook my head, trying to make sense of it. He lowered his harpoon as if to show good faith. Maybe a negotiation. "What is this?" I asked. "Is it a weapon? A bomb?" He grunted at me and raised his left hand, pointing at something on the wall. An exit sign. He pointed back at the cube, then at the exit sign. An exit? He tapped the sign again. I took the hint and left. I was like, oh no, that's not what you meant? You meant that the cube actually was how you got back to the future or whatever? Oh, okay. I threw the cube back to him. I don't know why, but if he stayed a little longer, there'd be a firefight. Not only would I get stuck in the crossfire, but there'd be other casualties. Giving him the cube back seemed like a good idea at the time. Maybe it didn't have to get any worse. He caught it and held it up, checking one of the sides. He glanced back at me as the voices approached, giving me a nod. He dug out something from his belt and threw it at me as he disappeared around the corner. The first thing to hit me was a grey capsule. It exploded in this glittery grey dust, stinging me with tiny slivers of glass. The second thing that hit me was a little plastic case. I couldn't see what it was, so I clutched it in my arms and fell to the floor. According to official reports, I was encountered by officers at 11:11 a.m. I was dragged outside as the team swept through the rest of the building. There was a small localized explosion in the middle of the second floor at 11:12 a.m. In hindsight, it's been argued that this smaller explosion was most likely the result of a larger charge failing to detonate. There is no way to be completely sure. The assailant was never recovered. As the last people were shepherded out of the building, me included, the scene looked like something out of a war movie. People covered in blood and wrapped in blankets as their loved ones offered their condolences. But if you looked a little closer, you noticed something strange. There were plenty of ambulances in the parking lot, but none of them were occupied. No body bags. Only 2 people got shot by the harpoon. The security guard, Cole, took a shot to the meat of his thigh. The guy from advertising got stuck to the wall. No one else was shot. The blood turned out to be a mixture of corn syrup, cocoa powder, cornstarch, and food coloring. The severed heads and limbs were all theatrics. Not a single one was real. While the attack was reported, it wasn't a big headline. The police didn't want to make it national news. They'd endangered the lives of civilians with what turned out to be smoke bombs and corn syrup. Yes, there'd been 2 injuries, but they were relatively superficial. And, all things considered, they were lucky. They made it out, and this was all framed as a failed terrorist attack. The material damage, however, was quite severe. Now, there was one more thing. The case. The thing he threw at me before he left. The case contained a CD. It took some time to get it to work. It had some kind of quirky 90s encryption, but I got it to run on an older machine. The CD contained financial data similar to what we'd had in the archives, but from another firm. Here's the kicker. The data covered transactions and market movement that were 2 years into the future. Oh my god, that man got mutated 2 years in the future. That's crazy. Watch out. In 2020, wait, this is 2026. Oh god! There's going to be 9 feet tall mutes that run around stealing financial information. That's horrifying. Things that hadn't even happened yet. Using what I read in those documents, I put my savings into some very targeted stocks at a very specific time. In March of this year, that paid off. I am no longer in need of employment. I don't know what to make of it. I don't think the armored man spared lives out of the goodness of his heart. Looking at the effects of the assault, I think it was a matter of earning time. Nailing someone to the wall makes sure there are innocents around. Police can't go in guns blazing when someone needs medical attention. Letting Lois run out the front door showed that he might have hostages and that he was ready to let them go in time. It was a calculated attack, but it was clear that the end goal wasn't terror or death. He wanted what was in the archive, and that was that. I have no way to know where he went. I think the answer was in that little black cube, his exit. Some say he blew himself up, but that's not what I think. There was never a bomb. It's kind of interesting. A little different than what you usually get on No Sleep. Although he did mention that he was having problems sleeping. So, yeah, no, that's fine. That stands up to reason. He kind of said no sleep at some point, so that's fine. Yeah, that's alright. That was okay, but we never found out what the mustard recipe is, so clearly it was pretty bad. Roll credits. Thank you and apologies to Muffin Recip with. Oh. My sister makes predictions to us every day. Today I finally discovered where those predictions actually come from. Content warning child abuse. Yeah, yay. Let me start from the very beginning. Lily was a magic 8-ball. Lily was... the child abuse is a magic 8-ball getting slapped out of her hands and breaking on the floor. Oh no! Outlook uncertain. Lily was never a normal child. Ever since she learned to speak in complete sentences around the age of 3, she would occasionally make a prediction to the family before breakfast. I'm just going to change that line slightly. Whatever. For instance, Mum, don't drive to work. Or, Dad, don't eat the croissant. She would then eat the croissant. That day, Mum took the bus to work instead. Later in the afternoon, we saw on the news that a horrific multi-car pileup had occurred on the highway she usually took, completely paralyzing traffic for 6 whole hours. And Dad, who skipped the croissant, provided in the company break room. However, a colleague of his, who was also severely allergic to peanuts, 2 of them in the same office? You can't have that. You can't have 2 diversity hires with the same problem. That's not a diversity hire then. That's just a normal guy. Was rushed away in an ambulance. Somehow a small smear of peanut butter had gotten onto the bottom of the croissant. This pattern had proved true time and time again. Lily's predictions allowed our family to dodge trouble on a regular basis. I don't know why they believed a child. Like, was this the 15th or like 80th time she'd predicted something and they're like, oh yeah, let's just believe our child. Let's believe our 3-year-old child. Yeah, the guy wasn't a diversity hire, he was a nepo hire. Oh no. Well, then he deserved it. Honestly, the first time she made a prediction, the whole family was terrified. Whenever it happened, she would slip into a trance-like state. Her eyes would roll upward until no iris was visible at all. Oh, so you could say that we could see the whites of her eyes. Why are all of these things connected? Why are these stories connected through a lattice today? That's kind of funky. Or it's that, or there's absolutely no creativity left on the planet. You decide. Her breathing would drop to a barely perceptible whisper, and her voice, lowered by half an octave, would turn into a flat, emotionless murmur. Okay, that's just rude. Come on, man. I've got emotion. Shut up. Lily had no memory of anything she said. The moment a prediction left her lips, she would snap right back to normal, blink her eyes, and start begging for chocolate milk or blueberry pancakes. I had emotions once. I don't believe you. We grew accustomed to it, depended on it, and loved her deeply for it. We were convinced Lily was special. No, she was special, all right. Until my parents had to go on a 3-day business trip, and I was left alone with Lily for the first time. Oh, is that... So they stopped thinking she was special after that? Cool. Fair enough. Although I had to cancel a trip with my friends, I was actually looking forward to it. Lily rarely made predictions for me. Most of the time, she was warning our parents. Up until then, I only had received 2 or 3 mundane warnings, like, don't drink the juice. I was visiting Jonestown that week. It did save me from a glass of spoiled juice, but I still hope for something cooler. So what you're saying is that you're wishing harm upon others because you get to avoid it. Yep, you sound like a child, all right. Escaping from the jaws of real danger always feels far more satisfying than just a false alarm. Right? For the first 2 days, Lily said nothing. I'd almost given up hope. Then, on the 3rd day, as I was pouring coffee in the kitchen, Lily walked in dragging her favorite plush rabbit. I'm really getting confused of the age difference here. Like, are you like 14 years older than your sister? Like, what's going on? Maybe she's like 16. She just really likes that plush rabbit. Her footsteps suddenly stopped behind me. I knew this was a prelude to a prediction. I turned around expecting to hear some minor warning about a broken brake light or spoiled milk, only to find Lily staring dead at my throat with lifeless glazed eyes. Jesus Christ. Am I Jesse? Jesse, don't kill me. The mug slipped through my fingers and shattered into pieces on the wooden floor. Scalding coffee splashed all over me, but I couldn't feel the burn at all. Lily blinked and the gloom surrounding her vanished almost instantly. She flashed a bright smile at me and hopped onto a high stool. just so that the audience wasn't too confused. Good morning, Jesse. Did you drop your cup? What did I just say that scared you like that? My heart slammed against my chest so violently it nearly suffocated me. I looked at her small, fragile body, her slender wrists, messy blonde hair, and a face full of pure innocence. I thought to myself, yeah, she'd be really easy to kill. How could I possibly kill her? Why would I kill her? How could I ever want to murder my own little sister? I couldn't tell her the truth. It would terrify her. Swallowing hard, I forced a stiff smile. You just said not to confess to the girl next door. I guess it's because I'd get rejected. She giggled, dangling her legs under the stool as she reached for the syrup on the table. Maybe the prediction's wrong, Jesse. Maybe she'll actually like you. Yeah, maybe the prediction was wrong. I slid the pancakes from the pan onto the plate in front of Lily. She happily enjoyed her breakfast, chirping away like a little sparrow, while I could do nothing but obsess over the meaning of that warning. Lily's predictions were always imperative sentences meant to stop us from doing things we might or were about to do. But what on earth could happen to create a possibility where I would kill her? Over the next 24 hours, I fell into a state of extreme paranoia. I didn't dare step a single foot outside of the house. Every time I picked up a butter knife, every time I walked past her, anxiety gnawed at my insides like a viper, making my skin feel stretched and swollen with tension. Or she's just fucking with you. I'm just gonna go out on a limb. She could just be fucking with you, man. Like, why not? Why not? It's like, aha, the parents are away. I know I have this magical power or what shit, and they probably told me what it looks like when I do it. I could just mess with my brother, roll my eyes into the back of my head, and it's like, Jesse, don't kill me. It's like, gotcha, gotcha. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, I returned to my room, locked the door tight, tied myself securely to the bed with rope, and stayed awake all night. The next day came and nothing happened. Lily was alive and well. I hadn't touched a single hair on her head. That was the very first time her prediction hadn't come true. You might think, hey, were you actually planning to do something to her? No, that's not what I mean. Lily's predictions always had a consequence. Think about what happened before. Mum avoided a car accident and Dad dodged a potentially fatal allergic reaction. Their fates were borne by others, but what about me? I followed the instructions, so what was the consequence of doing so? Oh, Lily went out and killed like 12 people after you tied yourself to the bed. It's like the trolley problem, except sister-shaped. Most people might laugh it off, thinking that since nothing happened, there was no need to dwell on it, but I couldn't. This wasn't over. It suddenly struck me that none of us had ever been curious about the source of Lily's predictive abilities. I searched online for everything related to prophets, whether they were genuine possessors of strange abilities or frauds chasing fame. But not a single person could make predictions as flawlessly accurate as Lily's. I began organizing every single statement Lily had ever uttered along the consequences that had brought us. I built a spreadsheet on a hidden USB drive, cross-referencing past statements from the last 4 years against dates, traffic reports, local news, weather data, and household incident logs. I must admit, the truth is always terrifying. Lily was not predicting the future at all. Predicting the future implies seeing possibilities that have not yet occurred. But her warnings were not abstract visions. They were highly targeted. Causally explicit directives. She wasn't seeing what might happen in the future. She was seeing the past. I came to this conclusion completely on my own, but hear me out, bros, it's true. Every morning, Lily was briefly replaced by a version of herself from another timeline. A Lily from that timeline had just suffered a terrible tragedy in her world. A trauma so unbearable that she forcefully wedged herself into our universe just to use those brief 3 seconds to scream out a desperate warning after the fact. This feels like an overly complicated reasoning that isn't really needed. Is it supposed to be giving him a justification for wanting to kill his sister? Think about it carefully. When she told Mum not to drive to work, it was because in Timeline A, Mum had been crushed to pieces in a multi-car pileup. The Lily of Timeline A then bled her consciousness into our intact Timeline B solely to say, Mum, don't drive to work. Mum changed her route, Timeline B was saved, and we remained on a safe branch. Every single time our family avoided a fatal accident, an embarrassing mistake, or a tragic illness, it was because in a neighboring parallel reality, another version of our family had suffered that exact same fate and written us a warning in blood. How did you come to this conclusion? And when Lily said, "Jesse, don't kill me," it meant that on a timeline she originally came from, I already had. The deduction sent a violent wave of nausea through my stomach. Looking at my hands, I could almost see invisible blood staining my skin. Why? It's in a different timeline. You didn't do it, bro. You clearly didn't have a reason to. Was I going to suffer a sudden mental breakdown? Was I going to contract rabies, or was it just a terrible accident that a Lily from another timeline mistook for murder? I began desperately trying to prevent it from happening. I cleared all heavy and sharp objects from the common areas. I covered every furniture corner with soft padding. I refused to drive her anywhere. I didn't even dare touch her, terrified that a single misstep would send her tumbling down the stairs. Naturally, my parents noticed my bizarre behavior. I refused to tell them why, but they didn't pay too much attention to me because Lily's condition was visibly worsening. She looked exhausted with dark, bruise-like circles around her eyes. Aside from her occasional trance-like predictions, she stopped talking to anyone altogether. My parents were frantic. They took Lily to see one doctor after another, but no one could offer a cure. We had no choice but to keep her at home. I did my best to avoid being alone with her, but my plans don't always hold. Are you gonna euthanize her? Are you gonna euthanize her? Sorry, I just... put that one in the envelope. That's what's gonna happen. He's like, oh, she's suffering and gotta put her down. Gotta old yellow her. He's going to give her the old yellow. Taking a deep breath, I opened her bedroom door. Lily was sitting in the middle of the room with her back to me, surrounded by her drawings. Aside from her silence, she looked no different than usual. But as I drew closer, I realized the papers were covered in chaotic scribbles of black crayon. Every single page was filled, with intricate, jagged lines. In the blank margins, she had written over and over again in crooked handwriting. There are too many of me here. There are too many of me here. They can't stop. Hey, Lily, what are you doing? I kept my voice as gentle as possible to avoid startling her. She didn't look at me, her black crayon snapping in half from excessive pressure. Every time you stop, another me can never go back. What do you mean by that, Lily? She stayed here. They're all here, deep inside my head. They can't leave. Gasping heavily, my body inexplicably froze, unable to move. I could only watch helplessly as she stood up, back toward me, and spoke in a voice as soft as a faint exhale. Jessie, how many rooms do you think are inside my head? It's getting so crowded in here. They're all screaming together right now, and they all want to tell you what you did to them. Her neck twisted around to face me. Her shoulders didn't move, only her neck rotated at a sickening, unnatural angle. Her eyes rolled back, staring dead at me with nothing but the whites. When she opened her mouth, the voice that emerged was not her own. It wasn't even a single person's voice, it was a chorus of hundreds, dozens of distinct timbres, some sharp and high-pitched, some deep and muffled, some echoing as if echoing through a deep iron pipe. Overlapping entirely, they produced a horrifying, unified chorus from her small throat. Every time the future is changed, the old world doesn't vanish into thin air. The broken worlds still exist. Every abandoned lily bleeds continuously into this body, every single time. We are full now, Jessie. There is no room left for the original Lily here. She took a step toward me, the joints in her limbs making spine-chilling clicking sounds. Do you want to know what actually happened on the timeline where you killed me? Lily's voice suddenly turned gentle and soft, almost a whisper. You didn't mean to. You just wanted to cure us. You wanted to use a knife to cut these voices out of our head while we were sleeping. Jessie, that's what you did. You always do things like that. So many times we've lost count. A violent spasm of pain hit my stomach. I sank to my knees, dry heaving uncontrollably as tears blurred my vision. No, no, no. Now do you want to know what happens on this timeline, Jessie? The monster occupying my sister's body stopped a mere 2 inches from my cheek. I could smell it. The stench of rust, dry, wet, dry dirt. It says wet dirt. No, there's a stench of dry dirt. Woof, that stuff stinks. She bent down, pressing her cold, clammy palms tightly against my cheeks, forcing me to look straight into her eyes. On this timeline, we won't warn you anymore. With a violent shudder, Lily went completely limp and collapsed into my arms. Trembling, I held her tiny body and placed a finger beneath her nose. She was still breathing, but her skin was terrifyingly cold. I carried her back to bed, pulled up the covers, and backed out of the room. I didn't tell Mum and Dad. How could I? What could I even say? Hey, Mom, Dad, your daughter's a crowded graveyard of timelines, and I'm destined to lose my mind and mutilate her? After I've dealt with everything, I packed my bags, grabbed my keys, and drove away from that house. I believed that as long as I left, as long as I vanished completely, the cycle would be broken. If I wasn't there, I couldn't hurt her. I could just disappear, drift along the open road, and let her be a normal little girl. I've been driving for almost 6 hours now. The sun set long ago, and I stopped at a rest station to buy some drinks and food. When I got back in the car, my phone sitting in the passenger seat began to vibrate. My name badge was next to it. No, that's something else. It was a text message sent from Lily's iPad, the one she usually uses to watch cartoons. With trembling fingers, I picked up the phone and tapped the notification. She had sent an audio file. I pressed play and Lily's voice came through the phone speaker. Her own true voice echoing in the silent cabin. Jesse, don't look back. Don't stop believing. I mean, isn't sure, why not? I guess the child that was truly abused was me. I think that one would have been better if the research, like, during the research, you really shouldn't have come up with anything and then have Lily reveal that information rather than it's like, it's a Lily from another timeline coming back to warn us. Like, no, don't reveal that information. I think the story would have played out a lot better if that section had yielded no results in the research. It's like, I looked it all up and I couldn't find anything. And then have the reveal, right? It was reasonably strong except for that, like, exposition section. If they just left it out, it would have read so much better. Oh, well. Wait, let's just edit it in our brains. Done. Oh, wow, that was actually pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, thank you and apologies to Horror Junkie 123 with "We found a ghost ship from the 1940s. The crew was still on board." What was a ghost ship? As of 2026, there are estimated to be hundreds... Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can estimate things too. In my estimation, there are thousands of people who could be watching this stream. There aren't, but, you know, it's an estimation, so it's okay. As of 2026, there are estimated to be hundreds of ghost ships afloat in the worldwide ocean. That number is relatively small compared to the millions of lost vessels over the past couple of millennia. You could be thousands of people, that's true. That's true. We may never know, though. It's a possibility. The ghost ship with the longest known record afloat lasted 38 years. Seems short, right? Ships break down over time. They sink. At least, they're supposed to. The ship my crew found shouldn't have existed. It should have been lying on the ocean floor. A heap of decaying parts forgotten by time. But it's not. As impossible as it is, it's not. I won't tell you her name. Just typing it out gives me chills. Also, this way I don't actually have to think of a name that could potentially give you chills. When my first mate... Aww, they're mates. That's so darling. And they're on the same ship? How lucky. Uttered it to me, I thought he was lying. I'd heard stories of the ship before. It was infamous. But I won't tell you its name. I had to see it for myself. I joined him on the deck in the dead of night. True to his word, a ship was inching toward us. She was a hulking behemoth, her tired parts sending creaks and groans through the air like rustic cries. In the moonlight, I saw it. Her name, that I refused to tell you. It was faded, but I could still make those letters out clear as day. It was her, the ship of legend, but I won't tell you what its name is. My eyes grew wide. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But I wasn't the only one who had seen it. Wait a second. I think I might know which ship it is. Sorry. Let me think. A famous ship from the 1940s. What could it possibly be? Actually, what could it possibly be? Oh, shit. My phone. My phone. I'm not supposed to get impact with microphone arm on it. Famous ships from the 1940s. I might be verifying you're not a bot. Screw you, phone. '40s ships. It's the Pearl? I mean, it could be. I love it. I looked famous ships from the 1940s. I just have Japanese submarine U4, Japanese submarine U5, Japanese submarine U6, Japanese submarine U7, Japanese submarine U8, Japanese submarine U9. Just keeps going. Okay, never mind. My eyes grew wide. It wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I wasn't the only one who had seen it. Captain, Jacobs whispered. What shall we do? I stayed silent, watching the mysterious ship run its course. It was close, so close. I racked my brain. I wasn't trained for this. A ship from the 1940s? Surely the crew members were dead. They had to be. Very famous ships. You don't know the story of Japanese submarine U7? I'm sure if you played like Azure Lane, you probably would. Unfortunately, it's shaped like a 12-year-old girl, but don't think about it too much. It's a warship. What I did next was the single stupidest decision of my life. Jacobs, I said. Have Hammond radio this in. Then give the command to pull up beside her. Tell him to get as close as he can. Jacob's face was pale in the moonlight. But Captain, That's an order. Jacob stared at me for a moment. Then, without another word, he fulfilled his duty. 3 asterisks! Minutes later, Jacobs and I were standing at the bow. We were facing the opposing ship at an angle, so close that I could jump across if I so pleased. Captain, this is reckless. You know it is. This is a major safety violation. Oh, she's gonna have her ass on this one, Jacobs said. What's she even planning to do? I gave Jacobs a wink and a little kiss on the cheek. This, I said, before leaping overboard. That's not the right. I'm reasonably sure overboard means directly into the water. Okay, never mind. I landed on the ghost ship's deck with a crash. Only minutes. There was no need for a time skip. Several minutes later, Jacobs looked like he was about to throw up. I groaned. I was going to leave a bruise. I made an attempt to pick myself back up. Well, boy, what are you gonna... Crash. Jacobs landed on the deck beside me. He held his knee and winced. Fuck you for this, sir. Seriously, eat shit. I grinned. Don't give me that. Curiosity is getting at you two. I can see it. He stood with some effort. You got me there. Jacobs and I traveled across the deck. Each creak from the... Oh, no, yeah, sure. Let's just walk onto a ship that's like over 80 years old and not immediately fall through the deck. Oh, don't worry, but it's a spooky ghost ship, so it's held together with, like, ectoplasm. Each creak from the old ship was enough to have me checking over my shoulder. By the time we reached the command deck where the ship was controlled... Yes, that tends to be what happens in the command deck. What? I was starting to second guess my decision to go to board. The door was slightly ajar, and the room inside was trashed. Papers had been strewn about, controls had been shattered, but that wasn't what sent a chill down my spine. The entire room was caked in dried blood. I mean, yeah, that would be pretty surprising that it remained dried. A rustic brown. Is that the second time they said rustic? Maybe they really like the word rustic. A rustic brown coated the main control panel. It must have been decades since the stuff had been spilled, but I instantly knew what it was. Jacobs tugged at my sleeve. Captain, we should go. No, I want to know what happened here, period. Look around, something's seriously wrong. There's no bodies and the door's left open. Plus, you see any signs of water damage? I don't. Please, let's just go back. I can't decide if I'm Scottish or Irish. Go back if you want. I won't be satisfied until I have a look below deck. Jacob sighed. I was afraid you'd say that. Fine, he replied, wind whistling through the open door. A chill racked his body. Quick look around, then we leave. I nodded. A quick look around, then we leave. 3 asterisks! Jacobs and I soon found ourselves standing before the hatch that led to the lower decks. You're right, you probably don't need... Scene change. We immediately did the thing we were going to do. We shared a glance. Yeah, that's twice now? Yeah, you're right. Then we both grabbed hold of the rusted handles. Are you sure they weren't rustic handles? After an immense amount of effort, we managed to open it. A musty smell emanated from within the depths of the ship once the hatch was opened. I crinkled my nose. Last chance, Captain. Wanna turn back? What the fuck? No, Jacobs, with your constantly changing voice. I don't know what you're talking about, Captain. Oh no, he's going to emasculate his first mate. I sighed. No, ladies first, I said, extending a hand. Jacobs frowned. Well, nice, I now got 150,000 rat coins. That's a lot of rat coins. I think you should invest those wisely in not spending them forever. Jacobs frowned. Forgot me flashlight. I thrust one into his hand. I brought 2. Why did you bring 2? Did you know he was going to follow you? Jacobs pursed his lips, looking at the cavernous pit, then looked back at me. He shook his head before beginning the descent. 3 asterisks! That's on and off for the next 10 hours. Ah, cool. We'll get absolutely nowhere for multiple streams. Save it for tomorrow. I don't know what the hell I'm doing with tomorrow's game. If you want to call it a game. Oh my god. Okay, so once again, 3 asterisks. Where are we? Jacobs asked. The berthing deck, I said, shining my light around the corner. Ha, that's what you call me every evening, Captain. Ha ha ha. We laughed. We laughed. It gets very lonely on a boat. Jacobs looked at me like I'd grown a second head. The deck where the soldiers sleep. Is that better? Yeah. Now lead the way, O fearless Captain. I am but a follower on your journey through the bowels of the beast. I shot him also a glare. Loser. I have half those rat points. Okay, I get it. Everybody has rat points. I have infinite rat points, huh? How about that? Huh? Probably because I'm a rat. Did I call them rat? Rat coins? Did I call them rat coins? It's a pretty good name. Hey, you want to buy my new crypto? Don't worry, it's not a pump and dump. I like to call it an inflate and then leave. Jacobs and I continued down the desolate hallway, our witty rapport left tingling in our minds until we found the sailors' quarters. I peeked into the first room we came across. My heart nearly stopped in my chest. The room contained 3 bunks. The beds all had blankets on them and what appeared to be something underneath. It was 2 awkwardly placed pillows so that the captain didn't know that they snuck out overnight. I checked the following rooms. Same ordeal. I cleared room after room, Jacobs hot on my heels, until we reached the end of the sailors' quarters. Down with the meritocracy. Oh, okay, so we don't need to be meritocratus either anymore. Meritocratus? Don't worry, we are without merit. We are completely without merit. Why do you keep hopping from Twitch to YouTube and back? Okay. Cotton, out of the all. My face was pale. I felt like I'd seen a ghost, and maybe I had. Dozens of them. No, they wouldn't be ghosts, they'd be corpses. They probably wouldn't have held up this well. Oh no, it's a creepy ship where weird things are happening. Leave. Yeah, I said. They're dead. All of them. Oh, what, because of ads? Is it because of ads? Are you going to say ads? I do the same. Are you just helping out? I mean, I guess if they're ads, you can avoid the ads by doing that. I don't know, man. I'm not in control of the ads. That's not me. I have everything set to minimum. I don't want ads, but here we are. It's like Twitch will go, no, ads are great. Here's a cent. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Twitch. I really appreciate that cent. Jacobs shuddered. I shook my head. The real question is, ellipses. What killed them? Cotton. I don't know if I want to find out. No, we have to find out. Why? We owe it to these men that we've never met before to find out. I only get rat coins at Twitch. That is true. That is true. That very valuable currency that is very rarely used because I don't have good uses for it. Jacobs didn't respond. He just nodded. Apparently, we both have deep sea mania. I knew what had to be done, but that didn't make it any easier. I entered the closet, and then I got out of the closet. Flashlight aimed at the bottom bunk. The beam landed on a lump beneath the blanket. Blanket? I could hear the blood pounding in my ears as I reached out. When I peeled back that thin fabric, I could have died right then and there, but I didn't for some reason. He stopped going on cam, so the hat on and off is no fun now. He's taken away. What? He taken the way the drink option. What? What does that even mean? I'm so good. Look, I can still take the hat on and off. It's like, oh, it's just not fun anymore because he's no longer a human being. It's like, oh, I can't tell. Oh no, this sucks. Oh, I could be a captain. We're reading a story about an idiot on a boat that's looking at corpses. That's pretty cool. I'm the captain now. Used to be able to get you to drink. Really? Huh. Yeah, but it's probably not the most appropriate time for us. Like, oh yeah, let me turn on the Chris will drink option. It's like, I'll take a swig of whiskey. What do you do after this? Oh yeah, you know, I'm going to my 6 hours of manual labor. Don't mind me. I'm sure it'll be fine. Let me just get on the road. Huh. Well, there are always so many turns on this road. Oh no, a cliff. It might not be the best. Maybe I can turn that on for the weekend. It was water? I already drink water. I'm hydrating right now. I'm sensible. Ish. Okay, sorry, this guy could have just died. There was a man lying in the bed. Room for one more? Ha ha ha. Not a pile of bones or ash like there should have been. A young man. Blonde hair neatly combed. Why did he neatly comb his hair before he got into bed? Mouth set... This has been staged. Mouth set into a frown. His most discernible feature was a knife jutting from his eye. Oh, okay. His other eye, glassy and blue, was open, unseeing. I grew frantic. This wasn't possible. These bodies were over 80 years old. They should have been skeletons by now. Like, are you... Okay, look, okay, I'm gonna peer behind the curtain here. I can see both chats, right? But all of the chats are just combined on my right. It doesn't matter if you're in YouTube or Twitch. It all appears in the same place for me. The only difference is, if you're on YouTube, you've got an @ before your name. If you're on Twitch, you don't. And that's it. That's the only difference, okay? Don't @ me. I can talk to my cell phone here. Yeah, I'm okay. Okay. Fair enough. I checked the man in the middle bunk. Same thing. Brown hair, smooth, pale skin, jagged slit across his throat. The top bunk bore the same result. Pristine body. I really don't like the way this guy's describing these corpses. Oh, they were so pristine and untouched. Oh, but dead. I pushed past Jacobs, who stood perplexed in the doorway. Captain, what is it? What you see? No, this isn't right. This can't be right. I rushed to a room further down the hall. Same thing. 3 bodies, perfectly preserved. But what if... What if what? What if what? Come on. Tell me. What if you bounce from chat to chat? Well, then your name just slightly changes. Unless you have a different name. What if you want to? Well, I mean, I can't stop you. This is a free internet-ish. Unless you live in Australia. In which case you get ID'd everywhere you go. As far as the internet's concerned, I'm an American. And Twitch doesn't not send my messages. Didn't it work? Looks like it worked to me. Didn't it work? Sorry, my preview window is like 4 inches from corner to corner, so I can barely see anything on there. I'm just assuming it's working. I trust the technology. Jacobs emerged from the adjacent room, his face void of color. Captain, what the hell's going on here? I felt lightheaded. I gripped the doorframe for support. This was a mistake. We need to leave. Had to send it twice? It doesn't look like that on my live stream for YouTube, because I can see that as well, see? Because I got 3 monitors. And on that, I only see 1 message from you. So you have problems on your side, I think. Suddenly, from the room behind me, I heard something that made my blood turn to ice. Rustling. Oh no, don't worry about it. It's just a rat. It's just a rat. We like to live, like, within dead bodies. It's very warm in there. Just kind of chew through the guts, hollow it out, make a nice little nest. I turned. My worst fear had came to fruition. The man in the middle bunk was sitting upright. Ah, it's so scary. Good God, we got a Scotty in the house, Captain. The dilithium crystals are gone. Why do we come on this ship, Captain? This is a right bugger. I can't do an accent. Every time it goes from Irish to Scottish and back to Irish. I don't know what's going on. I think he had a stroke. I think James Doohan was resurrected from being ashes and dead for decades, and for some reason he's now has brain damage. I would probably cause it, right? He gripped the handle of the knife embedded in his neck. Wait, no, the one in the the guy in the middle bunk had his throat slit. Jagged slit across his throat. See? Middle bunk. Jagged slit. The one in the middle buckets and jacket slit. You know, there's cosmetic surgery you can get done there. And slowly, methodically pulled it out. We're getting absolutely nowhere. Blood gushed from the wound. Why would... Okay, he's got blood as well. Soaking his uniform, but he never flinched. He stared at me the whole time, his icy dead eye set on mine. I stood frozen as the knife clattered to the floor. Hey, he needs that. That was his weapon. Oh, whatever. The man swung his feet over the side of the bed. Jacobs shook my arm.
Cotton there.
Jacobs didn't need to finish his statement. Yeah, no shit. No shit, Sherlock. I can see them. One by one, each of the men began to jostle. That got me moving. I gave Jacobs a hard shove in the back. Go now! He took off into a dead sprint. I followed closely behind him. Is this ship, like, ever going to collapse? It's like 80 years old. They're not going to, like, have their foot pierce a rotten plank. I could see this being a Souls-like boss. I mean, that could be kind of fun. You sort of get to the bottom of a ghost ship, and then everybody starts getting up and you have to fight your way out of it. That could be kind of neat. I followed closely behind him. The men began to shamble towards us. Tall, short, muscular, thin, some that climb on rocks. It didn't matter. They closed on us like flies to a bug zapper. Each shared the same two features. A mortal wound and empty, soulless eyes. Eyes that didn't contain a shred of emotion. A shred of life! That's because they're zombies, idiot. Jacobs and I rushed down the corridor, our feet making hollow thuds against the deck. The horde was spilling out into the hallway by the time we got to the ladder. Jacob's ladder? Are we climbing Jacob's ladder? For some reason, I'm feeling extremely energized right now. Jacobs reached for it, then stood still with a hand on a rung, as if it had been placed under a spell. I punched him in the arm. Go! They're getting closer! That spurred him into action. Jacobs hoisted himself up the ladder and through the open hatch. They were so close, too close. The moment I had the chance, I beelined up the ladder behind him. I was almost there. My hands were outside the hatch. I see what you did there? Yeah, because I'm fucking hilarious. Then I felt a tug. Oh no, I'm being tugged off by semen. I looked at... What do you mean a skeletal hand? Oh my god. Sorry. Sorry, the lore keeps changing. I looked down to find a skeletal hand gripping tight to my ankle. It yanked hard. Oh, okay. Oh no, they're operating under... This is Pirates of the Caribbean. No, they're operating under Pirates of the Caribbean rules. Suddenly, the men's flesh withered away before me. Their skin melted, blood cascading down their emaciated frames. Only their eyes remained untouched. I desperately kicked at the hand holding onto me. The fingers seared across my flesh as they skidded back into the depths of the ship, leaving raw, jagged cuts in their wake. I scrambled the rest of the way up the ladder, white-hot pain radiating through me. Jacob slammed the hatch closed the second I was through. The pair of us sprinted across the deck back to where our ship sat waiting. Jacobs leapt across. He landed hard, but he was safe. Well, Capitan, what's next? Not dying, I hope. I mean, do you think they survived to tell the tale on this web forum that they wrote it down in? Also, in Pirates, they didn't bleed until the curse was broken. Well, I more meant the fact that it's like, it seemed like he was grabbed by a skeletal hand as if the light from the hatch was shining down, and then it exposed the fact that they were dead men. I don't know. I haven't seen it for a while. I stopped at Caribbean 4 when Johnny Depp's wife shat on the bed. I thought that was really tasteless. I wasn't really interested in the series after that. Ha 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 ha. Funny. He landed hard, but he was safe. I was next. I tried to ignore the pain in my ankle, relying on adrenaline to carry me through. Dead men tell all the tales. Well, they have to at court. They're required to. And I barely made it. My legs hung off the edge. I looked down. Dozens and dozens of feet below, black waves lapped at the ship. Jacobs grabbed my hand, and then he decided, no, actually, I'm going to take the ship for myself. I'm the first mate, right? And he threw me into the ocean. Shit. He hoisted me onto the deck. One of our crew, a deckhand named Stark, ran up to us. Captain Officer Jacobs, are you okay? Don't know about okay, but I need you to do something for me. You tell the crew to get us back on course now. What's the other ship? Don't make me tell you again. Stark didn't reply. He simply nodded and disappeared. Moments later, we were off. I didn't feel safe until we were moving again. I gave the ghost ship one last look as we made our escape. I instantly regretted it! Dozens of figures stared back at me. Their skeletal faces remained stoic and unmoving, but those eyes, those awful, dead eyes, followed me even as we began to disappear from view. 3 asterisks! I made my crew swear up and down to never share the events of that night, even though most of them didn't really know because only 2 of us went over there. Each of them claimed they never would. Jacobs and I met in his quarters later that evening. Of course you did! Jacobs, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. We never should have boarded that ship. We never should have explored below deck. I should have listened to you from the start. Jacobs waited for me to finish. Captain, I don't blame you. I felt the pull. I was the one who saw it first. The ship came for me, Captain. I know it. I stopped my anxious pace. What? Private quarters, yeah. It's the private quarters where you can show each other your privates. I stopped my anxious pacing and looked at him. You're not making any sense, boy. Don't tell me your mind's left you now. Jacob looked me dead in the eyes. Alan, I need you to listen to me. My accent keeps changing, but I am not insane. You saw the same things I did. I nodded. I couldn't deny it. That I did. But you said the ship came for you. What do you mean by that? Sounds like the Mary Celeste. It was a famous ship from the 1940s. Well, I think it was probably Japanese submarine U-9. Jacobs leaned forward and stared at the wall. Captain, that ship wanted me to find it. It wouldn't have appeared if it wasn't on board this vessel. If I wasn't on board this vessel, I'm sure of it. The sailors. I waited for him to continue. Jacobs met my gaze. One of the men on board the ship was my great-grandfather. I looked at him, mouth agape. How do you know? I've seen pictures. It was him. I'm sure of it. I didn't know how to respond. Silence filled the room. 3 asterisks. Sorry, the story's falling apart. Oh no, it's spooky because his granddaddy was on the ship. That was the last time I spoke to Jacobs. He avoided me until we made landfall and quit his job soon thereafter. I never saw him again. He just wanted a family reunion, man. You don't have to be so sour about it. If any of my crew have told this tale, I haven't heard a peep. As far as I know, no investigation into the missing ship has ever been carried out. Jacobs and my transgressions were never discovered. Jacobs and my transgressions were never discovered. There have been no reported sightings of the ghost ship we encountered. Not since that night had vanished in 1941. That very famous ship that we're not mentioning, that was very famous, but we dare not say its name because it's famous. For all I know, it could just be out there to this day, roaming the high seas, searching for new sailors to join its ranks. Ooh, that's kind of lame. Sorry. I'm sorry. I could not take it seriously. Because you know that all of these no-sleep stories are extremely serious. Very serious, very serious. Thank you, and apologies to Top-Discipline. Top Discipline? Okay. I feel like not talking with your first mate is a huge problem. Well, look, if they went to couples counseling, they could have really discussed it. They could have sat down and worked their feelings through. But unfortunately, there were skeletons, and now they're scared. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but skeletons are are responsible for almost every single divorce. Because, you know, Skeletons are inside people. So, it stands to reason. It's the Love Boat. Well, I mean, is it... Oh, wait, I'm wearing the wrong kind of hat now. Sorry, this is a fast food story again. I have a fast food hat. I have a fast food hat. Hold on. Where is it? Where's my fast food hat? Where is it? Here. Yay! Fast food! Freaking performance art now. Thank you. Apologies to top-discipline 3273. That's a lot of disciplined people. I work the night shift at a fast food place. We're not allowed to serve anyone after 4 a.m. Oh, is this a gremlin situation? There's always people after 4 a.m. It's always after 4 a.m. except for when it is 4 a.m. Duh. Duh. Hey all. Your friendly neighborhood minimum wage fast food worker here. Wondering if anyone has the same odd problem that I have. Does anyone work night shift under these conditions? Does anyone work night shift under the this kind of rules horror? Or is it just me? I know it's a stupid question, but this is the weirdest fucking job I've ever had. Now, I won't really say where I work. Please don't pay attention to my crown. I don't want to get sued for defamation or some shit, but let's say we sell burgers and fries and we're famous. Wink. I don't want to be more specific. Now, I don't really know how to explain my working conditions, but if I had to, it's just that we have a series of rules that we have to obey after midnight. Ah, crap! Crap on a cracker! No! No! Oh, wait, what song is it? I mean, I'll do it at the end of the stream. I have to end the YouTube stream first, and then I'll do the karaoke. But what is it? I mean, yay! Karaoke! Woohoo! That's cool. We'll have some fun. We'll have some fun. I just need to give myself... Just remind me. Remind me so that I have enough time to do it. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I have to get back into character. I'm working a dead-end job. Okay, cool. That was easy. Now, I really don't know how to explain my working conditions, but if I had to, it's just that we have a series of rules that we have to obey after midnight. Rules that don't make sense. Rules that have bad outcomes if you don't follow them. This only happens on the night shift, however, which is fucking weird. During the day, it's pretty normal. People come in, they get burgers, they get fries. Lunch hours are a mess, and so is dinner. Doubly so on the weekend. But if you ever find yourself working the night shift, especially in the drive-thru, things get fucking weird. He spent 10k, you should be singing now. What? What? No, that's not how karaoke works. It's at the end of the damn stream. It's always been at the end of the damn stream. If they were 10,000 real dollars, then sure, yeah, we can end the entire goddamn stream. We'll just do karaoke. But they're freaking... It's rat coin, man. This stuff's worthless. It's always at the end. It's always at the end. Let me explain. So, it's no secret that dude bros, people who party out or the chronically bored, are usually the type of people you get at night. People who have worked these kind of shifts will know what I'm talking about. You'll go out to the drive-thru and you'll see a car filled with teenagers or people who should know better than coming in for double cheeseburgers and ice cream at this hour. But you got 5 more requests coming in. I'm pretty sure I was sensible enough to set that damn thing on a timer. I'm reasonably sure it's like it's a 21-hour timer. Just so that it's not like karaoke, 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 karaoke. They always want fucking ice cream. Now, those people, as annoying and drunk as they might be, are not usually the problem. They get their shit and they leave, but our manager explained that after midnight, there's a series of rules you gotta follow. And he says it's for good reason. Let me give you an example. At exactly 12... Why write it like that? Why write at exactly 0013 a.m.? That is already a.m. Just write 12:13 a.m. Sounds like a good stream. Maybe one day, maybe we will have a quote-unquote karaoke stream day where I reduce the cooldown and the cost of karaoke and we just do a karaoke stream. Okay? Maybe we'll let the stream get a little bit more populous before we do something like that. Otherwise, I'll look like a jackass and it's like, it's the karaoke stream day and no one turns up. And I'm like, okay, guess I'll just wait here until somebody redeems karaoke. And I have to sit here for 3 hours doing nothing. Okay, so at exactly 0013 a.m. hours on the dot, question mark, the entire line at the drive-thru will be empty. Not that we have no customers, so it's empty. Something makes it empty. One time, there were 5 cars placing orders at that hour. I don't think I've ever been so nervous working. Me and my coworker just stared at each other sweating. I always turn up, lol. I did not get 150,000 points for no reason. Okay, well, that is fair, but also keep in mind that we've been streaming considerably more than we have almost ever been. Like, you know, we'll take a slight step back. Yeah, let's take a slight step back because I do want to talk about it at least to a little degree. So I did post it in Discord, but for the last 60 days, we have streamed 160 hours, which is something I haven't done since 2018. So I think that's a pretty big thing, right? We have been productive, people. And I'd like to think that, you know, other than maybe the streams where I've been crashing out because I've been getting absolutely no sleep. Irony. I think they've been pretty good. So I have really been digging this. Lots of stream, lots of numbers. And if we do the same next month, it will be the most I have ever streamed in a 3-month block, which is really freaking cool. Okay, back to the story. I don't think it did distract too long. I just wanted to pat myself on the back. Actually, pat all of us on the back. Well done, us. I don't know how loud that pat was. Does it need to be louder? I don't want to injure myself before I go to work, though. Oh, good. The event list is screwed up. I love that. When the clock hit 0013 a.m., was at the same time I went to the driveway window to get out bags. So that calls for a special stream. Fine. What's a... No, I was gonna say, do we have a public holiday coming up? We'll do something big on the public holiday weekend. I'll do something big then. I can't promise otherwise. Unless I have to take a day off work. It's like, oh, we're gonna do a 24-hour stream. Ooh, I can't go into work. We'll do something. I don't think it's... Yeah, okay, you've got me tongue-tied. We don't really need to do anything to celebrate. I think the celebration is the fact that we've been turning up every day and we've been doing this and it's been good. Monday is bank holiday. Well, it is in the UK. Well, funnily enough, despite the fact that we're a colony, we don't get to share your holidays. I think the next one we get is Labor Day, which is in October. It's early October. And of course, for December, I'll be taking quite a lot of it off, so we'll probably be streaming more in December anyway. Well, let's not worry about that for now. Let's worry about the silly, funny, haha, rules, horror, food, place, horror, story, horror. Okay. It was empty. I just talked to a guy who paid, and after he turned the corner for delivery, he was gone. Just poof. Off the face of the earth. Oh, thank you. Somebody capitalizing Earth. You know how rarely they capitalize Earth? It's such a bugbear. It's like, oh, it's a proper noun, but we're gonna not capitalize it like mum or dad or Earth. I was just left standing there with 2 bags full of fries. I subsequently ate the fries. I don't want to sound like... Well, look, I'll admit it, this creeps me the fuck out, so... Please, just in general, don't go to fast food places at this hour. Come at 12:30. Come at 11 p.m. Or just don't come at night. You can't tell me what to do. But please, I don't want this to keep happening. It's now restaurant policy not to serve food 5 minutes before 12:13 a.m. We blocked the drive-through. It took some years of fine-tuning to get that because we did it wrong. We'd anger him. So, yeah, don't come at this hour. This weird disappearance act is followed up by what happens 2 minutes after. At exactly 12:15 a.m., something bizarre happens. A man driving a brown Chevy Impala turns up. He won't order anything. He just drives up to the drive-thru and stands there. When he's at the payment window, you're supposed to say, "Good morning." And he passes the pickup window. You say, "Good night." That's it. Don't make small talk. Don't ask his order. Don't do anything else. Just say good morning and good night. He'll drive off and you won't see him again. This happens every fucking night. Every single night, this guy wearing a fedora and a trench coat comes in and does that. He's harmless, I suppose. Well, almost. But at least he doesn't creep me out like the rest of the regulars we get. At 1 a.m., shit starts getting weird. There's this family that comes in at exactly that hour. They're the only people we serve after midnight who aren't in the drive-thru. Don't really have a choice. It doesn't matter that we lock the doors, close the windows. Fuck, we even barricaded the entire premises once it's a test. Family always gets in. Blink and you'll miss them. They just manifest out of nowhere. We just don't care at this point. We'll leave the door open. Might as well. The family itself isn't very normal. You know, besides the obvious. They don't talk. At least the adults don't. It's always the same family, but at the same time... What? But at the same time, it's not. It's 2 adults and 2 kids. They'll always be fucking different races. Sometimes the dad's black, sometimes it's the kid, sometimes they're white or Asian. I don't know anymore. I mean, personally, I don't see color. They keep switching. And like I said, the mom and dad don't talk. Why? You capitalize Earth, but mom and dad aren't important enough to. Okay. The kids always order for them. 2 large meals for the kids and 2 kid meals for the parents. No mayo and no pickles. It's always a fucking order. They get their food, look inside the bag, smile in unison, and leave. Creeps me the fuck out. I don't like to talk about it, but I've worked here for about 5 months, and there was this one time that something different happened. One time at 1 a.m., in they came, but this time it wasn't the 2 parents and the 2 kids, it was just one kid with a dog. Same family, same order, same shit. Dogs aren't really allowed in, but then again, what the hell could we do? They came in anyways. The kid ordered and they got their meals. They look at their food and smile, and then the mom of the group looks at me silently. She barked, and then they all went away. Fuck me. I try not to think about that day too much. What else is there? Oh, right, the 2 a.m. squad. So yeah, 1 hour later, 5 cars will come into the drive-thru. They all wear different colored shirts. Yellow, red, blue, green, and the last guy. Once you take their order, it doesn't matter how you do it. They will be switched up once they get to the driveway delivery window. It's extremely disorienting and not very nice for your understanding of reality. They're mostly harmless, except for the last guy. The last guy doesn't play nice, and he's always last. One time, Dave, my idiot co-worker, messed up his order. The last guy punched him in the nose. Seems a bit too much for messing up the order of fries, but okay. How do you mess up an order of fries? They're just fries, dude. Don't feel sorry for Dave. He wasn't confused about them switching positions. He just genuinely got the last guy's order wrong. Like I said, he's an idiot. After that, things start getting dangerous. At exactly 2:57 a.m., all the oil in the fryers will begin sizzling extremely hot. They will gradually start increasing in temperature regardless of whether the machine is turned on or not. It will exponentially continue getting hotter and hotter to the point where oh, he's an English major. That's why he's working fast food. He's an English major. To the point where I even see the plastic containers near the oil start melting. At exactly 3 a.m., it will completely stop. All the oil will go back to normal, and weirdly enough, even the plastic containers that got melted will revert to being unmelted. Then it starts. The hour I personally hate the most. I don't know, man. This sounds interesting. You know, as somebody who does a job that can become kind of monotonous, this sounds interesting. I want this one. I want to watch Dave get punched in the nose. 3 a.m. is the feasting hour. If you come and order after 3 a.m., you won't get anything. All the food that is ordered has to be eaten by us. We don't eat everything. That's when bad shit happens. So if you come in at that hour and order a cheeseburger and a shake, I have to eat them. Even if I'm not hungry. Pranks and supernatural oil sounds normal. Yeah, I mean, it could just be an issue with the, like, power substation, right? It could just be a substation issue. I, like the idiot I am, completely ignored this completely when I started working there. Needless to say, I burnt my entire arm that night. Remember the sizzling oil? Well, Dave hit one of the fryers and sprayed hot oil all over my arm. You might think that was Dave just being an idiot, but the oil wasn't supposed to be hot at that point. Wait, excuse me? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. So, do you turn the oil off every time you're not using it? Because you're supposed to leave your oil at like 160, 180 degrees. Are you saying that normal hot oil doesn't burn you, but hot oil burns you? I guess they're just made different in the States. If you ever want to experience the most painful sensation in your life, I suggest dipping your hand in boiling oil. I promise you, you won't forget that pain. I'm joking, by the way. Don't do that. I was punished for not eating, I guess. It's not so bad, I suppose. You might think I should sue or something, but, well, remember how the plastic containers go back to normal with the hot oil? Well, the next day my arm, which should have been third-degree burns, which should have third-degree burns. That's no. Do we want to go into this? Just the TLDR, degrees of burns. This refers to the amount of your body that has been burnt. So, yeah. I think it's like 90 or 95% of your body burnt is considered third-degree burns. Your entire body. Don't ask me how it works. I don't know myself. At 3:30 a.m., the feasting hour stops. You don't have to eat anymore. That's half an hour. What do you mean the feasting hour? Yeah, you're still a fucking idiot, though. So don't come crying to me that you didn't get your food for that hour. And then finally, there's the end of the day. The last hour. From 4 onwards, you stop. No food, no orders, no one eats anything. That's it. I'm serious this time. Don't eat anything. Not you and not the customers. If you break this rule, the consequences stop being innocent or quirky. I'd honestly rather burn my arm again than break that rule. We had a co-worker, Steven, who worked here some months ago. Steven was decent at his job. He followed the rules properly, but one day he fucked up. He was kind of a big guy, did drugs, probably, and he probably ate twice what me and Dave could eat combined. And one day he somehow forgot. He ate some fries after 4 a.m. So is this supposed to be Five Guys? Is third degree is a level of burn, has nothing to do with volume? I always thought it had to do with volume. Doesn't matter. Anyway, is this Five Guys? Once again, I'm not a state historian, but he did mention that they sell burgers and fries, and isn't Five Guys slogan sort of like Five Guys burgers and fries? Is this a Five Guys? My hat's wrong then. He ate some fries after 4 a.m. Steven was fired that day because he did something insane. He tried to eat the manager. I don't fucking understand it myself. But if you eat anything from this place after 4, you change. You become different. Steven's in jail right now because he went insane and almost successfully deep fried our manager. He got him halfway into the fry before we kicked him off. I've never seen someone look so deranged. His eyes were so open. He was drooling. God. My manager, he's a hard ass. And I feel bad for the guy. The man was dunked in hot oil. The next day he was fine, of course, but yeah. There's no scars on him except the ones inside his head. When the oil starts boiling at 2:57 a.m., I can see him going away. He stands near a corner, afraid to get too close. Burger fries, shakes are basically all American joints. I understand that, but just the way it was kind of phrased at the start, it's like burgers and fries. Like, he mentioned burgers and fries specifically. I don't know. Must have been an ex-Mickey D's employee. Oh, no. So, yeah, that's my normal workday. Oh, I guess I forgot to mention. At 5, my shift ends. And I guess I sort of lied. There is one more thing that happens. The Fedora Impala guy, he shows up again at 5 a.m. I didn't mention this before, but our manager calls him the owner. That we just call the guy him. That's a story for another time. He shows up every night at 5 a.m. and if you did everything right, he says just one thing. Good job. And then he drives off. And I fuck off home. Now that's my full work shift. A clusterfuck that it is. Any of this sounding familiar to anyone? I'm writing this while I'm eating some fries from the feasting hour. Some guy ordered a few minutes ago. I'm alone now, writing this on my phone at the restaurant. Late night shifts alone are so much fun. Huh. Weird. The clocks on the wall are giving a different time than my phone. At least this will be over soon. Been feeling a bit funny for some time now. I was writing this as more of an event before I likely quit my job. Maybe tomorrow. This place sucks, even if the pay's decent. Also, yeah, I lied. I don't make minimum wage, but this insanity is still not worth it. The clocks. Wait, was today daylight savings? Dave's such an idiot. I think he forgot to set the clocks back an hour. Wait. Do they go backwards or forwards? Edit. Dave just came in. He's taking over this shift. Oh, so? My dog just dropped my pie on the floor while I left to get some whipped cream. Oh, God. Curse you, Fido! How dare! How dare you! Don't you understand? Pies are sacred. And for some reason, all of the American ones are sweet. This makes me want to meat pie. Gristle and bone in gravy. Edit. Dave just came in. He's taking over the shift. I was thinking of quitting, but maybe I'll stay. I don't know. To talk to my manager, I mean, pay's not that bad. Maybe I can cope with the insanity a bit more. Besides, I do get pretty hungry here, and the food's nice. Looking at Dave right now, fumbling with his entry card. He really is an idiot. So yeah, I'll talk to my manager. I think I'll work this shift too. Work a few more hours with Dave. I kind of need the money. Besides, he smells delicious. Oh no, daylight savings. He ate a man. An entire pie. A Dave pie. Well, okay, no, okay. Once again, I think this is another, like, mistranslation kind of thing. Like, when I think of pies in the States, you've got, like, this, like, sweetened fruit pie that's, like, I don't know, a foot in diameter, something like that. The kind of pies I'm talking about are, like, personal meal pies. They're about 4-5 inches across. They're reasonably deep. They're just filled with meat and gravy. Simon knows what I'm talking about. Okay, thank you and apologies once again to Muffin Recip Been busy this week, I see. My friend drank a bottle of mineral water that had been discontinued for over 20 years. Then he went missing. I don't like fruit pies, too sweet. I prefer pumpkin pie. Oh yeah, I guess that's your, like, savory pie, right? But it's still a fruit, isn't it? I do a real pie. Okay, what's... okay, what's a real pie? What would you consider a real pie? I'm quite fond of steak and kidney pie. Or... oh no, you guys have like chicken pot pies and shit as well, right? You've got meat pies. Don't lie. Don't lie. I've heard of these things. I've heard of these things in the state. I don't know what pot is. Is pot because they prepare it in a pot, or is it like potato? Is it chicken potato pie? I don't know, man. I don't know. I desperately need to know about this mineral water. No, I understand, and it's a real pie. Nice. Nice. I think that's the only way that anyone could possibly eat kidneys, is it has to be in a steak pie. Otherwise, they're just awful. It all started 7 years ago. I don't know if anyone here has a friend like mine, someone with a nearly pathological obsession with water. He was exceptionally fond of drinking it. Some might say he was like 2/3 of it. Haha! When Avery first introduced me to his passion, we'd known each other for less than a month. I remember it was summer. I had some sweat beading on my brow, and he asked if he could lick it off because he really likes water. Wait, no, that's not what it says. The dormitory air conditioning was broken, so on my way back, I bought 2 bottles of chilled mineral water from the convenience store downstairs. Why would you buy mineral water, you monster? I originally intended to press them against my skin to cool down. After all, our dorm had a filtered water dispenser, so there was usually no need to buy bottled water. But when I handed one to Avery, he looked surprised. It was the first time since the school year started that he actually looked at me in the eye. You like this brand too? Great taste, a wise choice. I froze for a moment. What? He didn't elaborate. He silently unscrewed the bottle, took a small sip and closed his eyes in enjoyment. A bit hard on the palate, but the lingering sweetness comes through quickly. The calcium content's a bit high, though this year's new batch is gentler than last. At the time, I thought he probably had some kind of psychological condition, like high-functioning autism, and Chris definitely wasn't voicing it like it was somebody with autism. Only later did I learn he was a water sommelier, and the most eccentric person I would ever meet in my life. That doesn't mean he doesn't have autism. After we got closer, I discovered that Avery was actually a minor celebrity in niche online communities. Oh my god, he's a micro-celebrity. Is he gonna end up drained of blood like Lena Lazar was? That's crazy. And forums for liquid enthusiasts. Most people might think water tasting is just a piece of pretentious pseudo-scientific upper-middle-class nonsense. But not to him. Avery possessed a nearly miraculous sensitivity in his taste buds. He could accurately distinguish the subtlest differences among dozens of commercial mineral waters. At least he firmly believed he could. The man is filled with microplastics. At this point, it's macro. Regardless, his quirk didn't affect me. It was just drinking water, far better than the heavy drinkers in the next dorm over. On the surface, he seemed like a perfectly healthy hobby. And we got along very well through our 4 years of college. Besides, I have to admit the guy was brilliant. He was the only chemical engineer major in our year to graduate with a perfect GPA, and right after graduation he was hired as a chemical analyst at a major firm with a remarkably generous salary. What the fuck is going on? Sorry, I think my brain's melting. I think I need a pie. Can I get a hot pie injection, please? You know, I'll actually go for like a chicken korma pie. That sounds pretty good. By then, we still maintained a comfortable, somewhat distant friendship, though perhaps mostly because I was his only friend. Well, that's sad. I was glad Avery hadn't turned into some hermit living in a basement. We still met up occasionally. Every time, Avery would talk endlessly about the waters he had recently sampled, while I nodded along and enjoyed expensive top-shelf whiskeys I could never normally afford. Courtesy of Avery, of course. Until one day, Avery suddenly sent me a message. Do you know about tasteless water? Before I could even type a reply, Avery forwarded a post. It came from that same liquid enthusiast forum I'd seen on his phone before. By the time I clicked it, there were already over 200 replies. The original poster claimed that many years ago he had drunk a bottle of water with an exquisite taste. He vaguely remembered the brand name being Tasteless. Recently, he suddenly felt an intense craving to try it again, but he couldn't find any record or purchase information for the brand anywhere online. An insider in the comments replied that it was a brand distributed exclusively within a very small number of private clinics and sanatoriums in the late 1990s. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Its manufacturer existed only for 3 years before declaring bankruptcy, and by now, all production lines and records had been destroyed. Aside from that, almost all of the other comments were questioning whether the brand ever existed, assuming the poster had made up the story for attention. Yeah, I want attention from the Weird Water Forum, please. Before I could finish reading the thread, the post suddenly showed as deleted. When I returned to our chat window, a new message was waiting for me. Do you think tasteless water is real? Come on, he deleted the post. It was probably just a joke. It doesn't matter. I saved screenshots. He sent over several images, missing not a single detail. The word sanatorium in the comments had been circled in red using a digital marker. Do you think this could be a breakthrough for an investigation? No. I just looked up several closed private sanatoriums. They all claim to use some kind of natural therapy. Makes you curious, doesn't it? Avery, don't do this. Don't worry, nothing's going to go wrong. I'm just going to take a look. And then he ended up in Marble Hornets. We're still friends, right, Ave? Smiley face? I'll reach out to you later. But he didn't reach out. From that day on, Avery disappeared for about 6 months. I tried every way I knew to contact him, but to no avail. Then, one day, Avery suddenly showed up at my office door, telling me he had something incredible to show me. He took me to the basement apartment he was renting. The room was thick with a heavy, musty odor and a strangely indescribable, fishy, metallic stench. If I hadn't been certain that our friendship was rock solid, I never would have set foot in such a creepy place. Avery told me that during the months he was gone, he'd spent all his savings searching for tasteless water. He'd even quit his job and moved into this basement, relying solely on odd jobs for basic living expenses. In the center of a battered wooden table stood a single brown glass bottle. It was tightly sealed, the top fused shut with a black resin-like substance. There were no commercial labels on the bottle, only a single handwritten line in permanent marker, faded with age. A date was barely legible. Shit, I don't know, man. Which date is it? Is it the 12th of April? Is it the 4th of December? I don't know, it's in 1998. Avery stroked the bottle with a gentleness that bordered on sickening. An old collector kept it as a specimen from some psychiatric treatment. It took all the money I had to buy this one bottle. That was it. A bottle of 20-year-old expired mineral water had wiped out my friend's entire life savings, and he couldn't have been happier about it. Maybe he really did have high-functioning autism after all. Rude. He carefully cut through the sealing wax with a small knife and pried the cap off with a bottle opener. There was no hiss of escaping gas, not even the slightest disturbance in the air. Avery pulled out 2 spotless clean glass tumblers. As if performing an ancient ritual, he evenly poured the liquid from the bottle into 2 glasses. Drink. He looked at me with an urgent, coercive intensity in his eyes. I have to drink it too? Of course. He glanced at me oddly, as if wondering why I would even ask such a question. We're friends. Fine. For friendship's sake. It's just a glass of 20-year-old water. At least it was stored in glass, so there's no plastic degradation to worry about. We raised our glasses at the same time and swallowed it down in one gulp. The liquid slid over my tongue and down my throat. To be honest, it felt nothing special. It was just water, slightly below room temperature, flat, completely tasteless. If I had to name a difference, it was that after swallowing, there seemed to be a tiny, almost imaginary hint of sweetness at the back of my tongue. Or maybe that was a trick. That was just a trick played by my own saliva. How was it? Pretty smooth? I weighed my words, trying to make his money feel well spent. Maybe a little sweet aftertaste? I suppose the calcium, zinc, and magnesium levels are decent. Avery watched me rack my brain for an answer, then suddenly burst out laughing. That's what he sounds like. Don't be nervous, it's just water. I let out a sigh of relief. Right, just water. Avery swirled the empty glass in his hands, his tongue sounding a bit regretful. Although it's really tasteless, it's nothing extraordinary. Looked like my $3 million went down the drain. $3 million. That was less than I expected. I guess he still had some savings left. It seemed Avery hadn't completely lost his mind after all. How have you been lately? Did I cause you a lot of trouble? Avery's expression returned to normal, and he casually started making small talk. I'd been worried I might lose his composure, but now he seemed in decent spirits. Yeah, same as usual. But don't you ever vanish without a word again. We're friends, you know. We rattled on about all sorts of mundane things. How's business? Fine, not too bad. You look terrible. You need to get some rest. Doesn't everyone? Do you remember that trip we took in college? Oh, of course, that was a great trip, wasn't it? I did most of the talking. Looking back, I think I was trying to use those worldly trivialities to pull Avery back into the real world, or at least get his brain to stop thinking exclusively about the subtle differences between a dozen types of mineral water. Avery didn't say much, he just nodded occasionally, his hand constantly gripping the empty glass. Our roles had reversed. Just as I was rambling about a bizarre co-worker at my office, Avery suddenly interrupted me. We've been talking so long, I'm getting a little thirsty. Really? How about we head out and grab a drink? Still have plenty to tell you. No, don't bother. There aren't many bars around here. It's a long walk. I mean, you can keep talking, I'll just, manage. His eyes wandered, his head slightly bowed. Following his gaze, I looked down at the empty glass in my hand. There was still about a third of the liquid remaining at the bottom. I just need to drink a little more of that. I'm really, really thirsty. In that split second, I saw a primal animalistic greed in Avery's eyes. He was a guy with a mild germaphobe streak. Usually, if someone so much as bumped into his teacup, he'd frown and go wash it. But right now, he was staring intently at the residue in my glass. Residue that might as well contain my spit. Suddenly, a sudden wave of intense dread prickled at my spine like a scratchy wool sweater, making my scalp go numb. I hesitated for a moment, then handed the glass over. Avery practically snatched it from my hand. Without even waiting to align the rim with his lips, he frantically poured every last bit of water down his throat. He greedily sucked at the bottom of the glass, his tongue even licking along the inner walls, desperate to capture every last molecule. Are you okay? Jesus, you're parched. If that's not enough, I can go buy you some water. Avery let out a deeply satisfied sigh as if he'd just downed a pint of ice-cold beer. He reached up, wiped the water from the corner of his mouth, and apologized for his sudden rudeness. I'm fine, I just suddenly felt extremely thirsty. I'm better now. Avery didn't seem to notice my stare. Sounds like me with a pint. Wait, you're just grabbing other people's booze? Nice, that booze should be yours. He lowered his head and slowly sucked off the remaining... He lowered his head and slowly sucked off the remaining moisture from his fingertips, his expression calm. The soft, wet sounds echoed with unsettling clarity in the empty basement. Ave? Yes? Avery looked up at me and I realized he was staring at my lips. We're still friends, right? Of course. Well, why? Why do you ask? Nothing, just asking. That was our last conversation. After that day, Avery vanished. He never returned. His phone became disconnected, his basement apartment was put back on the market, and his forum account went dormant. I tried going to the police. They deemed it a voluntary disappearance of an adult with no immediate family, which didn't constitute a missing person case. It was only then that I realized he had never once mentioned his family to me. I knew nothing about him. Writing up to this point, I don't know whether I should write down what happened next, because I'm not sure if what I saw that day was a hallucination or reality. After hesitating for a long time, I finally decided to write the whole thing out, or at least write down what I know. If your relatives or friends are also looking for tasteless water, please, whatever you do, stop them. I've always deeply regretted not talking to Avery more that day. After he vanished, I rarely drank plain water anymore, turning instead to a heavy addiction to soft drinks. So I missed it. What did the water do? They drank it and it's like, it's just normal. And then Avery drank the rest of his glass, OC's glass. And then he looked like he was gonna die for his lips because they were moist, probably from the water. And then he disappeared. Until my annual checkup doctor warned me to stop drinking so much Coca-Cola unless I wanted diabetes by 30. So I switched to Diet Coke. Just kidding. Now I only drink green tea. It's less bland than plain water. 2 months ago, my company organized a team-building wilderness retreat deep in an undeveloped section of the National Forest in Oregon. It was a treacherous zone where karst topography merged with virgin forest, perpetually shrouded in cold, damp mist. Everyone in the company complained bitterly about the arrangement, but the big boss insisted on going there, claiming we needed to reconnect with nature for our health, and it definitely wasn't because he wanted to go. The weather turned terrible that afternoon. The planned hiking route became a muddy disaster following a sudden torrential downpour, and I got separated from the main group. While trying to locate trail markers, I stepped on a rotting tree root, and my footing gave out instantly. The tumble down was long and chaotic. I grabbed at anything I could reach, trying to break my momentum. Spinning out of control, branches slashed my skin and jagged rocks battered my bones. Finally, with a sickening snap, my left lower leg bent at a horrific angle and I slammed hard into the bottom of a deep ravine. I'm not laughing because this man was mutilated. Okay, maybe I kind of am. The excruciating pain knocked me unconscious. I didn't know how much time had passed. But when I finally woke up, the sky was pitch black. Around me was an impenetrable canopy of trees, with the occasional night bird uttering a piercing screech. The temperature in the ravine had plummeted, and the biting cold combined with blood loss began to cloud my mind. My throat felt as if it were lined with dry sandpaper, every breath dragging out a burning sting. Without water, there was no way I'd survive until a search team found me. Just as despair was taking over, I heard it. Water. The survival instinct that kicks in when a person is pushed to the brink is truly unbelievable. Normally, I barely hear my alarm clock going off, but that night, lying in the mud and weeds, I clearly heard the sound of flowing spring water. It was a delicate, faint rushing sound that pierced through the dead quiet of the night, coming from deep inside a rocky cave a short distance ahead. Is Avery gonna be in there and he's gonna be like Golemed? And he's holding the empty bottle and he's like, my precious, Golem. Driven by sheer force of life, I gritted my teeth, using my hands to claw into the damp hummus and cold stone. Humus? It's not hummus. I dragged my useless, numb, broken leg inch by inch toward the sound of water. My clothes were shredded, the palms of my hands torn raw, leaving a gruesome trail of blood mixed with mud behind me. I didn't care. My eyes were fixed entirely on the shallow pool reflecting faint moonlight just ahead. I finally crawled into the cave. The interior was wider than I'd imagined. There was no pungent sulfur or musty smell typical of limestone caves. Instead, a strange, unnatural silence hung in the air. The sound of water originated from a spring in the center of the cavern. It was a naturally formed pool of water, impossibly clear. It was so transparent that even in the dim light, the surface was virtually invisible, like an absent, transparent medium. I struggled to the edge and reached out a trembling hand toward the water. The moment my fingertips touched the stream, a soothing wave of icy coldness rushed straight into my brain. I plunged my entire face into the water, gulping it down like a dog. There was no earthly... Dogs don't stuff their face into it. They lap it up, don't they? What? There was no earthy tang common in mountain springs, nor the chalky mineral taste of rock seepage. The instant I swallowed, an indescribable sensation spread down my esophagus. It felt as if every cell in my body had stopped screaming at once, smoothed over and dissolved by this liquid. The taste was identical to the expired mineral water I'd drunk in Avery's basement. I snapped my head up, water droplets falling from my chin and breaking the stillness of the surface. After a brief shock, my stalled brain was suddenly seized by an uncontrollable surge of terror. If this was the water source Avery had been searching for, then where was Avery? Enduring the agonizing pain, I leaned over the edge of the pool. Beneath the thin silver of moonlight filtering through a crack in the cave ceiling, I squinted, trying to peer into the bottom of the pool. It wasn't deep, about 2 or 3 meters. Because the water was so unnaturally clear, everything at the bottom was fully exposed to view. I saw the thing I'd subconsciously ignored moments before. Resting quietly on the bed of fine white sand at the bottom of the pool lay a man. It was Avery. He was fully clothed, his exposed skin showing an unnatural translucent white, almost like jade. His hair floated gently with the current, like a patch of black moss growing on the pool floor. 3 years had passed, yet his body showed not the slightest sign of decay. No swelling, no discoloration, even the texture of his skin remained clearly visible. He just lay there at the bottom of the water, a sweet smile resting on his lips. He had been watching me from under the water all along. His lips part and close gently. Though no sound reached my ears, I read the shape of his mouth. Drink. I watched my own head lower toward the water again, completely out of my control, and caught the increasingly tender smile on Avery's face at the bottom of the pool. The only sound left in my ears was the gentle surging of the spring. It was the sound of the water breathing. I don't remember much of what happened after that. I was rescued by a search team. When I woke up, I was lying in a bed at a local emergency hospital. My left leg was saved, but the doctor said my blood work was bizarre. The concentration of electrolytes and all the minerals in my body was at a critically low level, far below what it should be compatible with life. I asked the search team members if any of them had seen the pool of water, but they said I was found unconscious directly below where I'd fallen, in an open clearing. That was the only reason they located me so quickly. One of the rescuers told me it was completely normal to experience vivid hallucinations under those circumstances. Today, my body is fully recovered. I'm strong as ever, better, in fact, than I've ever been. I'm full of energy and I can run 2 hours straight without stopping. I might set out again soon. Yesterday, I found a small bottle filled with spring water in the side pocket of my backpack. I can taste its flavor. I have no memory of ever filling it, but it means that that pool was no hallucination. Avery's still down there beneath the surface. I have to go bring him back. Because we're friends. Ooh, spooky water! Ah, no! Dihydrogen monoxide! Avery dihydrogened! I don't know if we have enough time for another one, unless there's a really short one here. Because we've got karaoke to do. Yeah, looks like we might just do the karaoke, eh? It's starting to look that way. Maybe we would have had time for one more if Chris hadn't been tardy today, huh? Huh? How about that? What does that say about crabs? The crab traps of Goodwin's Island. Oh, spooky. Have you seen The Bride in Blue? I mean, I can go through the titles of these because we're not reading them. They won't be here next week. I work in a hotel. The first line. I work in a hotel. Wow. Shit, I never would have guessed. Yeah, that one's pretty short. Okay, we'll quickly read this one, and then we will do karaoke. Thank you and apologies to firm underscore Hornet 7264 with, in 1997, I quit my career as an officer. The following story is why, period. In the winter of 1996, I was 25 years old and had been working as an officer for 5 years in a small town east of Saginaw, Michigan. The winter that year was rough, and most things in town were closed for a few days as we shoveled snow out from the roads. We had our fair share of dumb 911 calls, drunk people, a car crash, that sort of thing. You know, dumb calls like a car crash. One night around 11 p.m., we got a call about a possible home intruder, but the home address was a few minutes out of town, in the cornfields, and with the snow on the roads not fully plowed away, it took even longer to get there. It took me 20 minutes to drive from the station to the farmhouse. I parked my cruiser and stepped down, keeping my hand ready by my holster, my other hand grabbing the flashlight from my coat pocket. From the street, the house looked entirely normal. The lights out upstairs were off, but a small bit of light was visible through the glass of the front door. I kept my head down, partially in the collar of my thick jacket to keep the freezing wind from my face, but as I looked down and turned my flashlight on, I saw a long bare footprint in the snow. I froze briefly. What the? My tire tracks had obscured some of them, but I followed what remained, and they seemed to go from the field to the right of my cruiser, across the street and into the house. I leaned back into my cruiser and grabbed the radio and called in. Arrived at scene requesting assistance, footprints in snow. I don't know what to make of it, heading inside. I closed the door to my cruiser, drew my pistol, and followed beside the footprints towards the house. Such a dumb call, not like it's an emergency where people's lives are in the balance. Also, only went there with one officer. He doesn't even have any backup. The front door was ajar, but without signs of forced entry, like the intruder had simply walked in. I pushed open the door and stepped inside, but nothing looked wrong. The TV in the living room was left on, as was the kitchen light. After finding nothing, I made my way upstairs. The top of the stairs came to a hallway. To the left was one door, and to the right were another two. The door to the left was wide open with the lights off, and the room was small and seemed like a spare bedroom, furnished and organized, but dusty and untouched. I turned to the other end of the hall and stalked down it, keeping my footsteps as quiet as I could on the hard wood. I checked the closer door to my left, closed but unlocked. The mirror on the wall shone the light of my flashlight back at me. As I lowered it, I saw a counter and a sink, and then a toilet and shower beside it. Gross. The bathroom was short and narrow between the spare bedroom to the left, and whatever waited for me behind the door to my right. I grabbed the doorknob and turned it slowly as I tried to push the door open, but it wouldn't budge. It felt as if someone was leaning against the door, but not trying to keep it shut. I pushed it open, and as the door gave in, I heard a wet thud and a long squelch as I opened it further. I lifted my flashlight to see that where I had pushed open the door, there was an immense streaked puddle of blood. My heart pounded as I stepped around the pool and further into the room to look behind the door. In a limp and blood-stained hand laid the landline phone, but as I looked further, the rest of the body was unrecognizable, mauled and broken. I retched and ran to the bathroom, unable to keep from puking at the sight of the eviscerated victim. I fell to my knees in front of the toilet and dry heaved for what felt like an eternity. As I sat up to catch my breath, there were loud footsteps and something dashed past the open doorway in my peripheral. I startled, but quickly found my bearings and got off the floor, grabbed my pistol and flashlight from the counter and gave chase. By the time I stepped out of the bathroom and pointed my flashlight down the hallway, whatever had sprinted past was already down the stairs. I gave chase, practically leaping down the stairwell to keep up, but halfway down I heard the crash of glass shattering. I reached the living room again, and the back door was broken through. I stood there confused and frightened, as whatever had killed the caller escaped into the pitch black of a moonless winter night. Be started, not startled. Be started, not no startled. Well, this is very startling. He came to a start, and I need to finish the story. Oh, sorry. I'm waiting for something to... He startled someone. No, he's just startled. I was startled. I looked down and now saw a new trail of thickly splattered blood and footprints, but the footprints were distorted. They were thicker and paw-like, with only the balls of the feet and clawed points in the front of them making up the bloodied prints. I stood frozen, not knowing what to do, before in the distance I heard a siren blaring. I stared out of the smashed back door a few seconds longer before I returned to the front porch and waved down the back. I waved the back. I don't remember much of the rest of the night, mostly paperwork and reporting, but the last thing that had struck me after all these years is hearing two of my fellow officers mentioning the body of the victim had been taken. I stayed working there for a few months longer, but the weight of what I had seen and the fact nothing ever came of it, no answers, no investigation, like the entire thing had been swept under the rug, took a toll on me and I ended up quitting by the spring of 1997. Oh, okay. I saw a spooky monster and I quit. Okay, cool. Whoa, that's crazy. You saw a spooky monster and then you quit? That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, YouTube. Okay, YouTube. Bye, YouTube. I'm going to do a karaoke now. If you want the karaoke, you have to go to Twitch. Twitch.tv/DJ Paradroid. That's where the karaokes happen. Sorry. Bye. Sorry. Bye. Bye. Sorry.